free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for. For this free information, call 800-422-1609, 800-422-1609, 800-422-1609, or simply visit godra.com.
Your business is under attack 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a fact. Small businesses are the low-hanging fruit. You may think you're protected, but you're vulnerable in many ways, and cyber attackers actively prey on small businesses. But Turnkey can protect you. Turnkey is the key to cyber protection. Turnkey has a quick and efficient 12-point evaluation to determine if your business, your profits, are at risk. And right now, for a limited time, Turnkey is offering the first month of service to all new customers free. Peace of mind, free. It includes all Microsoft licensing, antivirus, anti-malware, and completed data backup both on-site and off-site, plus help desk support. Don't leave you, your employees, and your customers vulnerable. Talk to Turnkey. Visit turnkey.pro. 3 decades of experience. That's turnkey.pro. Turnkey, the champion of small business.
The Charlie Kirk Podcast is on the Salem Podcast Network.
The media far too often has become the enemy of the people. The media told those of us that noticed Joe Biden's mental decline for years that you are wrong, that you are spreading mis and disinformation. They knew how bad this was, and these reporters actively covered up one of the greatest scandals in American history.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Spring, a time to get outside, be active, play with the grandkids, enjoy life. But if high blood pressure is holding you back, the sooner you get control of it, the sooner you'll stop being a walking time bomb. High blood pressure is a serious issue. Your blood vessels are constricted, your mortality risk is high. So what can you do besides take medications with side effects? Well, there's a delicious juice that can help bring your numbers back down. It's called 120 Life, and it has natural ingredients that have shown to lower blood pressure. Yes, a superfood juice is showing amazing results for high blood pressure without the side effects of big pharma medication. Try 120 Life risk-free now with a 2-week trial pack. Go to 120life.com and use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping. They're so sure it can lower your blood pressure in 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied. Order now. That's 120life.com. Use coupon code 560 at checkout for 15% off.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. The basic duty of government is to maintain public order and safety while protecting the rights of its citizens. The government of Los Angeles and the state of California have failed miserably and repeatedly on both points. Mismanagement and dereliction of duty led to the destruction of the Palisades in Altadena in January. Actual malice today towards federal authority and law enforcement by LA's mayor and city council threatens to burn down the rest. When ICE began detaining criminal illegal aliens, Bass and her council roared in anger, inciting mobs to attack federal agents enforcing the law. This week, the council tried to order its police chief to expose these agents to further danger by revealing operations before they took place. When Chief Jim McDonnell warned that this would constitute a crime, the council's president scoffed, calling the arrests abductions. LA's leadership believes that they're above the law of the country in which they exist. They are radicals bent on national destruction, not responsible office holders interested in public order and safety. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Now, your official weather forecast.
It'll be mostly cloudy today with a brief shower or two with a high 78. An evening shower in spots, otherwise partly to mostly cloudy tonight with a low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a high 78. And real pleasant come Sunday with times of clouds and sun. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day. High Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Heading back out to L.A. to begin the show today. Just in case you missed it, I know there was reporting during the day that a U.S. federal district judge approved a TRO that restrained President Trump from seizing control of the National Guard and deploying them in California. Well, late yesterday, a federal appellate court ruled that the Trump administration can indeed maintain control over National Guard troops in California and continue to deploy them against rioters in L.A., blocking that lower court ruling. So onward we push in the direction of law and order if President Trump has his way, and right now he's having his way.
And they celebrated early. It's like, celebration, cool your heels, because even the judge did block control of the National Guard, which the one court did. The Marines could still be there, but it doesn't matter now because the lower court has put a stay on it. So
no, the appellate court overruled the lower court. So what is going on in LA? It's every time you turn around, there's a new congresswoman that's part of this California delegation that you've never heard before, and they all fit sort of the same profile: shrill. Just waffle, not awful, because they're not all angry white leftist females. They're ALFs, I should say. They're angry leftist females. We got a new acronym. And the latest ALF from California is part of their congressional delegation. Again, the feminization of politics we talked about earlier. It's very interesting. Is this person who replaced, actually, Karen Bass. So Bass moves, moving the checkers pieces around. Bass moves over to mayor of L.A. And Sydney Kamlager Dove replaces her. She was on CNN, and she had. Do we have? Yeah. Do we have? Yeah, she was on CNN talking about ICE and the situation there, saying that. The invasion is actually not people coming into this country illegally.
But it is also important for Angelenos to feel like they have the right to express their First Amendment rights and protest against this invasion by ICE agents who are showing up at elementary schools, at immigration hearings, in grocery stores in my district, and essentially kidnapping members of the community, not showing identification, not showing any warrants. This is not how we should be living in Los Angeles or in cities across the country. This is not an immigration policy that we're seeing unfold. This is domestic terrorism.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us. The text lines are up and running right now.
Well, Sydney Kamlager Dove, we appreciate your contributions. David Ignatius, who is a Dem, neo-Marxist columnist for the Washington Post. I guess he's considered one of the more moderate neo-Marxists. He's the Mensheviks to the squads, Bolsheviks. Writes about the response in California. Democrats have gotten the border issue so wrong for so long that it amounts to political malpractice. The latest chapter in which violent protesters could be helping President Trump create a military confrontation he's almost begging for as a distraction from his other problems may prove the most dangerous yet. When I see activists carrying Mexican flags as they challenge ICE raids in L.A. this week, I think of two possibilities. These protesters are deliberately working to create visuals that will help Trump, or they are well-meaning but unwise dissenters who inadvertently accomplishing the same goal. Yeah, that's how it's actually playing out. He's not wrong in terms of his assessment. He's wrong with the sort of underlying, this is Trump distracting from other problems and so on and so forth. No, this is Trump dealing with a problem that he's inherited that manifests itself all over the country, time and again, where there's an opportunity. The point that he makes that's the salient one, though, is they are so tone deaf that you almost think, who's behind the funding of this? The Republican Party or MAGA or Trump. Of course, that's not true, but that's just an expression of how tone deaf, how badly they have this wrong in terms of the views of the larger public. But it continues unabated. The interesting thing is law enforcement, even in L.A., and it's a difficult job to be somebody who's serious about public safety and working for a city government in L.A. or Chicago or big city America governed by these neo-Marxists, malgoverned by them. But, at a certain point, you just have to say what's true. And if you say it out loud, there's a little bit of a lesson for folks out there, what Jim McDonnell is doing, the police chief in L.A. If you say it out loud, then you sort of insulate yourself from political repercussions, because if Karen Bass were to move to take out Jim McDonnell because he's telling the truth about what's happening in the streets, her position would weaken even further. McDonnell sort of undermining the peaceful protester or mostly peaceful protester narrative because of all the mostly peaceful protesters, the violent, nonviolent types that they're arresting.
They have weapons of all kinds. We arrested a number of people last night for curfew violations. I think 14, and 3 out of the 14 were armed with weapons, handguns. And so when you look at that, what appears to be one thing is something very different. We've seen in those backpacks that they'll have hammers, they'll break up curbstones and concrete bollards, break up into smaller pieces, which they'll then throw at police. They put them in backpacks and walk around like that. I've seen somebody today walking around with golf balls in a backpack. So all sorts of weapons, all very potentially dangerous. We've seen commercial-grade fireworks being fired at our people, with shrapnel being put in, from what I'm told, and into some of these packages. Again, that is pretty scary stuff when you look at it. Liquid being thrown on our officers, the attitude of our officers and the professionalism and restraint that they've shown is remarkable. They've done a tremendous job out there, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Good for him. But, Dan, it's only a 2-block area, which is the biggest bunch of bull jive. I talked to a relative in L.A. yesterday, and they were like, no, this is all over the place, and all the stores that are being damaged randomly. It's a big lie. And also part of this big lie, have you seen this on Instagram? I don't know if you go on Instagram, but there's a black man in front of a L.A. school, and he's got a gold chain on, and he's crying, and he's going like this, Dan, with his hand over his eye a lot, saying that the school was raided. Dozens of kids and their parents were taken out during a graduation ceremony. The principal of the school has come forward and said, that is a lie. Okay, so be careful what you're reading, too, on the internet. They didn't raid a school and take away children or their parents. So these things start spreading on media. But then you had that person that replaced Karen Bass on city council enforcing the lie. Yeah, her soundbite
on city council.
No, the woman, S.K. Dove, or what, hyphenated?
She's a congresswoman.
Congresswoman. Yeah, but I'm saying she's enforcing the lie that elementary schools are being raided.
Yeah, well, of course. Well, why would they stop lying? They're calling ICE an invasion of domestic terrorists. Okay. And then, and resuscitate defunding ICE, something even Pritsker wouldn't do yesterday during his testimony, but we'll get to that in a bit.
He's a liar, too.
In addition to the National Guard, you also have federal support over the top, where local law enforcement is unwilling. And I'm talking about on the other side of the criminal justice system, prosecutors. The U.S. Attorney for the Central District of L.A. is a gentleman named Bill Asaley. And he had this to say about some of the work that the DOJ is doing through his office.
Today we executed a search warrant on the individual who was seen earlier this week distributing face shields to suspected rioters down in Los Angeles. We have made it a huge priority to try to identify locate and arrest those who are involved in organizing, supporting, funding, or facilitating these riots that they're going on. It appears they're well orchestrated and coordinated and well funded, so we want to understand who these people are and where this organization is coming from. And today was one of those first arrests, the key arrests that we did.
Okay, so the money is being followed. That's good. Joe in Naperville.
Yeah, can the Democrats just show me one case where somebody's being deported without a removal order or a criminal record? Just produce one case, an objective one case. And these ICE agents, they had better start filing civil suits against these politicians that start calling them racist and terrorists and defaming them. They need to go at these politicians civilly for their money for making such derogatory statements.
All right, Joe. We did get a message, too, from Hollywood of sorts. A Hollywood outlier, of course. But a heavyweight nonetheless. Our friend John Voight posted a message. You don't want to mess with Mickey Donovan if you're Governor Newsom. Here's what Mickey Donovan had to say to the governor and, by extension, the entire political power structure of the state of California.
You're a fool blaming Trump. What are you doing for this destruction of these animals destroying Los Angeles? Are you there talking calmly with them, you fool? They would burn you down like they're burning the cars and the American flag with no regard for humanity. This is not about Trump. This is about protecting the people from these animals and criminals trying to destroy us. And our police force, are they supposed to stand there, let rocks hit them and kill them? Who's going to save them? You? President Trump called in the National Guard and the Marines to help with these destructive, barbaric riots. All you do is cause chaos for the people. You're a disgrace. You're nothing but a lying dog for the hopes of becoming the president one day. And God is my witness, truth will prevail because of your faults and your incompetence for California's failures. We the people, I stand with Donald Trump to make this state great again. For we the people choose Donald Trump to save America, and we're in danger with threats from terrorists now, and we must protect our country. This has now become good against evil, and evil will lose because our President of the United States of America was sworn in to protect this nation's greatest gifts: freedom, safety, prosperity. And he will, because he is the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. And we the people stand with this nation's honor and respect and with the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. God bless.
I now do Pritsker. John Voight should do a little video series of all these blue state governors and big blue city mayors, too, while he's at it. Coming up at 5:38, we'll stick on the California power structure because one of their comrades was cuffed outside of a DHS press briefing yesterday. Sitting Senator Alex Padilla.
Who?
Introduce you to him. He's the guy who followed Kamala. I mean, it's just the revolving door of neo-Marxists in California, 538.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here's Nikki Whaley.
Good morning. It's 63 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is slamming Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
This after U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was handcuffed while the secretary was giving a press briefing.
I served with the secretary for probably about 10 years in Congress. And Madam Secretary, I do not recognize you anymore. I do not know Kristi Noem that I served with for 10 years.
Bass questioned how authorities didn't recognize one of California's sitting senators when they wrestled him to the ground and restrained him. She went on to criticize Noem, pushing back on her claims that Los Angeles is a war zone. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Whole food locations across the country are starting to see shortages after a major supplier was hit by a cyber attack last week. United Natural Foods reported on Monday that the company had to take some systems offline to deal with the attack. United Natural Foods reported Monday that they had to take some systems offline to deal with an attack that had temporarily impacted their ability to handle customer orders. A spokesperson for Whole Foods says the grocery chain is working to restock shelves as quickly as possible. This report is sponsored by Starbucks. The Starbucks Summer Berry Refresher is back with notes of raspberry, blueberry, and blackberry, shaken with ice and poured over raspberry-flavored pearls. Make it yours with lemonade or coconut milk. Available for a limited time, Summer Berry Refresher is ready at Starbucks. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
It's almost time for AM 560's annual golf outing, presented by Signature Bank. And once again, AM 560 is proud to partner with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation as they support America's first responder and military heroes, including homeless veterans, and to help America never forget 9/11. It's all happening on Wednesday, June 18th at McCray Memorial Golf Club in Barrington. Enjoy a full day of golf, meals, an awards reception, and a silent auction. Reserve your foursome today at 560theanswer.com/golf.
Wow. At the time of this being written, both gold and silver are up some 40%. That's 40% in just 1 year. In fact, this past year, gold has broken all-time historic records by hundreds of dollars an ounce. And unlike all other financial instruments used today, that historic record goes back thousands of years. In times like these, prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins and bars, but also those old coin and paper money collections. They're especially looking for the scarcer dates and higher grade coins. Take advantage of the record high market price and our huge demand now, whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out their worth. Fox Valley Coins is the place to go. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just one light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
For months, you've been hearing ads about Virago immune support. I have to tell you, this stuff is for real. I had an occasion to not be feeling well on a remote broadcast. I took it, and it is the real deal. And the stronger your immune system, the stronger your body defends against diseases, viruses, and everything else. That's why Dr. Huber created Virago, a liquid immune booster supplement. You take it daily. It's a blend of 23 nutraceuticals working in synergy to maximize effects and boost your immune system. It's the nutraceutical cocktail for an immune system, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Virago even protects your heart, your kidneys, your liver, all in a unique liquid supplement for better absorption. Do yourself and your spouse a favor. Order a bottle of Virago today online at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Maha and Virago, making America healthy again.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
Now, your official weather forecast.
For today, going to be mostly cloudy with a brief shower or two, high up to 78. An evening shower tonight, then partly to mostly cloudy with low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a high 78. Real pleasant come Sunday with clouds and sunshine. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day, high Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Alex Padilla is somebody who climbed the ranks in neo-Marxist politics in California, member of the the State Assembly in California. Then he became Secretary of State, and then when Kamala was whisked away by Joe Biden, he backfilled the Senate seat that she occupied, and the beat goes on. Alex Padilla is, sort of unremarkable apparatchik, like so many. And like so many we've seen, now that we've got a full look at the California Congressional delegation. Oof. Good grief. I thought Illinois was bad. There's more of them there, of course. Padilla shows up to a press briefing being done by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. And he gets a bit obstreperous because, and you'll hear the backstory after his takedown. He was, just looking for answers. The Homeland Security is not being transparent enough. They're keeping senators in the dark. And this was his rationale to try to shout his way into a press briefing to get answers from Kristi Noem. And as you hear him come in and then be taken out, I mean, you hear Kristi Noem addressing the assembled press in the background. So, I mean, it's just, this was the typical thuggish behavior of the left. It's just dressed up in a U.S. senator.
It was performance art.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your heads off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty?
She didn't miss a beat.
No, she didn't.
She's still talking.
She's probably used to it from the left.
Well, and then they take him into the hallway and they handcuff him. And the thing is, Dan, he had on a shirt that said he was a senator with the seal that was covered by his jacket, and he didn't have on his pin or a badge. So how are they supposed to know who he is?
It doesn't matter who he is.
It doesn't. He could have been a bum off the streets. You don't do that during a press conference. Didn't they just learn 11 months ago somebody tried to kill President Trump? And we're just a fraction of an inch away from killing him. I mean, he was bum rushing her. He wasn't just interrupting her question, like, excuse me, I have a question. And if that happened at Pritsker's press conference or anyone that I've been to over 21 years, the same thing would have happened.
So Padilla, then outside of where that press conference occurred, because he wasn't arrested, or detained. He was taken out, he was taken down, he was cuffed until he calmed down, and then he was released. This was his statement.
Several of my colleagues, have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California.
No, I can't imagine, because I doubt that you would get resistance from people who are otherwise peaceful and reasonable. And that was the problem. Number one, that he broke into the press conference and just started screaming at a cabinet secretary. I don't know how you think that's going to work out. But then when he was when Secret Service and DHS personnel responded to confront him, he pushed into them. He pushed and he pushed and he resisted. And frankly, he wasn't arrested or detained, but he should have been.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us on that very same line. Soon, quickly, people on the Senate floor heard about this.
I just saw something that sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on.
Yeah, it's very easy what it went on. We all saw it. Yeah. And remember, Alex Padilla is a law and order senator.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security
Donald Trump,
responds,
now the former president, the defeated president, as President Biden refers to him,
No one is above the law, not even him. So we will leave it to law enforcement officials, investigators, the Department of Justice, and everybody in between to pursue the facts and do what's proper.
Yep, that's my same viewpoint on you, sir. And the point is this. I mean, we've seen this happen before in public comment section at a municipal meeting. When somebody goes over their time or somebody becomes unruly and you have local police, what do local police do? As long as the person is just yelling and being disruptive,
that's fine.
They walk up to the person, stand there, and tap them on the shoulder. Okay, you have to go. And if you walk out peacefully with the officer behind you, then there's no problem. If you resist or you get physical, then there's a problem. And what Senator Padilla did was resist and get physical. He initiated the physical conduct when he wouldn't turn around and leave peacefully when confronted by security personnel that said, this doesn't fly here, as you know, turn around and walk out. He wouldn't do it. He kept pushing into them, and so they pushed harder.
Well, I'm going to take a little further because, again, I've been to thousands of press conferences. He was storming while she was talking. He was approaching her, and he seemed so unstable. I mean, he didn't even look like that guy's a senator. Are you kidding me? He looked like a crazy man. And it was a political stunt. And I'll tell you why I think he did it later. But, I mean, this is a masculineless, unstable Democratic Party.
Here is how Padilla characterized what I'm sure many of you have seen in terms of the video evidence of what happened. Here's what he told MSNBC what actually happened.
Oh, okay.
Secretary Noem said that you, quote, lunged towards her at this press conference. The Department of Homeland Security said the Secret Service believed that you were an attacker, and the Department of Homeland Security called this political theater. What's your response, and what's your version of what happened?
Well, first of all, that's ridiculous. It's a lie, but par for the course for this administration, right? So here's the stage. Look, I was in the federal building here in Los Angeles for a scheduled briefing. Just as when my colleagues and I had to go all the way to Guantanamo Bay to begin to get information about that facility being used as a detention facility, they've been non-responsive to requests for information. And so I had scheduled, they approved, a briefing with representatives of the Northern Command in that federal building. We were there prior to the 10:30 original appointment date when we caught wind that Secretary of Homeland Security is going to be down the hall at a press conference. And our briefing was now delayed because of that press conference. So since the secretary has been non-responsive, I figured let me go over and listen to what she has to say. Maybe we can glean some information here.
So let me make sure I understand that.
The whole time, right? We're the whole time being escorted in this federal building by somebody from the National Guard, somebody from the FBI. I've gone through screening. This is a federal building. And so tell them, let's go listen to the press conference. They escort me over to that room. And I'm sitting in the back of the room behind the cameras, behind the reporters, listening. And at one point, it was just too much to take. Not the first, but the second attack on the political leadership of California and this notion that Donald Trump and Kristi Noem had to come in and rescue the people of Los Angeles from Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. It was too much. And so I spoke up. I introduced myself. And said I had a question. Look, they said I wasn't wearing my pin. My polo says United States Senate. There was no threat. There was no lunging. I raised my voice to ask a question, and it took, maybe half a second before multiple agents were on me.
He went in screaming like he was bat blank crazy. And Kristi Noem, when she walked out of the press conference, reporters were all over her.
Why did you detain him? Why was that the action you decided to take?
I'll let the law enforcement speak to how this situation was handled, but I will say that it's people need to identify themselves before they start lunging at people that during press conference.
Is it appropriate to handcuff a sitting senator that way?
Yeah, it is appropriate.
We enforce laws based on conduct, not based on titles in this country. Yeah, the D.C. Press Corps should take judicial notice of that. That's how it's supposed to be, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. So his identification doesn't matter, and the idea like you walk into a room and you start shouting a question while a government official is addressing the assembled press. of course, is absurd. What kind of reaction do you think that's going to get? We're also supposed to be children here. So they're all aghast. LaMonica MacGyver, you may want to ask her.
Oh, yeah.
You assault federal law enforcement officers, you get arrested. It's about behavior, not about title. You may want to ask the former Spokane City Council president, who was among dozens arrested during an ICE protest in Spokane, Washington, also a bit up for grabs as pepper spray had to be used, more than 30 people arrested, a curfew issued for the first time since 2020 in Spokane, Washington. The problem with the left, well, among the problems with the left, including sitting senators, people with titles, sitting congresswomen like LaMonica MacGyver in New Jersey, is they have no impulse control. Because they have been weaned on temper tantrum as the method to communicate your politics. And sometimes temper tantrum leads to crossing the line into illegality. And that's what happened with LaMonica MacGyver. That's apparently what happened in Spokane with a former city council president. And that is what happened to Alex Padilla yesterday. He's just lucky he wasn't arrested and charged.
Crying at his press conference after he bum rushed a woman on stage, please.
Eduardo, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, good morning. First, I got to say a flock of seagulls. Just a dedication song here.
A flock of seagulls.
For what? And
for
I ran. For
Space Age Love Song?
Well, you'll talk about it later.
Oh.
You'll talk about it later, right. Besides LaMonica MacGyver and the Spokane thing, we can't forget Jamar Bowman, the one who pulled the fire alarm there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Party is the one, when they were in power, they would go down into the basement just so they can make up legislation because they didn't want any input from Republican Congress people. So it's pretty ridiculous because I'm listening to on KFI yesterday during the day, and they've been there many times in that building. They're very strict in there. So this guy is just wants to be bully himself in there just so he can talk to Ms. No. It's ridiculous.
Thanks for the call, Eduardo. Michael, Southside.
Morning, Dan. Morning, Amy. Thanks for taking my call. As far as I'm concerned, Senator Padilla is a cowardly, spineless weasel who engaged in a cheap political stunt and found out the hard way that it wasn't a good idea. As far as I'm concerned, the security officers at that press conference were too easy on him. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Philip in Blue Island.
Wow, went too easy on them. And this is probably one of those red-lettered Christians who talks about God's love and love the world and care for the poor and the foreign and least of these, loving your neighbor and welcoming your stranger. And then they'll look at Jesus and say, Jesus is too woke. God is just too woke. We got to do something about this, God. So, we'll create Trump. Trump is our God now. Not even America. We'll turn it into Trump. Everything's Trump, Trump, Trump. And you believe, I'm sorry to say this, that like this station and some of your callers, you believe that you are the salt of the earth, but you are actually the assault on the earth.
Oh, I see what you did there. That's a fun play on words.
Thank you very much. And let me give you this last one. And you think you're also the light of the world.
Wait, am I the darkness?
I thought he was the second coming.
I'm the gaslight of the boy. You've been
He's been practicing all morning.
Have you hired writers, Philip, since we last talked? Really impressive. Thanks for the call, Philip. I remember the heady days of Obama when he was parting the seas. Speaking of deification of politicians, which is not something I do and I discourage people from doing. So that's not what's happening at all, of course. And I don't know what all of those sort of vague scriptural references to tenets of Christianity have to do with law enforcement. I really don't, because loving thy neighbor is being respectful of thy neighbor. Is that what we're seeing from your friends on the left, Philip? And by the way, Trump doesn't think he's a god. He doesn't think he's a king.
There are several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What are they going? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off. And after years, we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good to make light of the silliness of the overheated rhetoric of the Philip from Blue Islands of the world. And then you have to address actually the substance of their behavior, because that is a serious business. That is not to be taken lightly. Glenn in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, good morning, Dan and Amy. So if you're an unstable individual and you're showing behavior that is not stable, not rational, then you should don't be surprised when people watch your actions and react to your actions. And when you're pushing back at security, you're just reinforcing your instability.
Yeah, the only thanks for the call, Glenn. The only thing that's surprising is watching when those who demonstrate their instability wind up in public offices, like Alex Padilla and most of the congressional delegation, as far as I can tell. Rich in Indian Head Park.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. I just like to know if you guys seen that video of the sheriff out in Florida, what he said about all of these protests.
Which one?
Thanks for the instant request, Rich. Of course we're on the job there. Meet Wayne Ivey. He is the sheriff of Brevard County, right? Yeah, Brevard County, Florida. Wayne Ivey, he has a message to would-be rioters.
If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at.
Oh, my God.
Because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play.
We ain't
This has
playing.
got to stop.
Wow.
Graveyard dead. That's the worst kind of dead. Dragged across concrete, the Wayne Ivey story. Yeah, I would encourage...
Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, Florida.
I would suggest to Alex Padilla he not relocate to Brevard County, Florida.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services provided by Premier Disability Services. Premier Disability Services is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. This advertisement was produced by Sequoia Media Group on behalf of Premier Disability Services, which is solely responsible for its content. Are you no longer able to work due to a recent injury or disability? This is an important message for you. If you're between the age of 45 and 63 and need help filing for disability benefits or were denied by your insurance company, Premier Disability can help. Call 800-560-1808. Whether you're a first-time filer or filed before and were denied, you'll pay nothing unless you are approved for benefits. Thousands of disability claims are unnecessarily denied each month. Work with a team who'll fight to get you the benefits you deserve, who understands the physical, emotional, and potential financial impacts, and will share their insider expertise. But act now, because there are time limits to apply for benefits. If you're between the age of 45 and 63 and need help filing a disability claim or filed previously and were denied, call 800-560-1808. Call now.
Larry Older here. More than 200 members of Congress are standing up for AM radio listeners. The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act will keep AM radio in cars, because when cell and internet services are down, this free service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 39179 and tell Congress to pass this critical legislation now. Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
Enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock, all day, every day, including daily replays of Chicago's Morning Answer on Dan and Amy 24/7. Listen now at danandamy247.com.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in Chicago with a simple mission to help companies like yours grow, succeed, and thrive. Their decisions are made locally by a terrific team that knows your name, cares about your business, and invests in your success. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. I'm a customer. As business owners, they knew that local family-owned businesses were not getting the help they needed or deserved. So I invite you to reach out to my friends at Signature Bank today. Write the number down. Remember this phone number, Signature Bank, 773-467-5630, and learn all about this great bank, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
How did those sanctuary state governors, including our very own Jelly Belly, do before the House Oversight Committee, 606?
And the reason why I think national network affiliates didn't pick it up, we'll explain why. But now it is 6 a.m., WIND, Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. President Trump reacts to Israel's attack on Iran. I'm Dave Anthony, and he's urging Iran to make a deal before there's nothing left. He wrote in a Truth Social post about an hour ago. The president says things will only get worse, and he gave Iran chance after chance to make a nuclear deal, but in recent talks, Iran refused to stop enriching uranium. Now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says,
"We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program."
Israel also killed some scientists and military leaders, including the general in charge of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and the general who was chief of staff of Iran's armed forces. And Israel's not done.
There are new strikes underway just minutes ago in Iran.
Fox's Alex Hogan has more on the Israeli operation from Tel Aviv.
According to Israeli officials, it was carried out in 3 phases this morning. It included Mossad commando units smuggling drones deep into the country long before the attack and activating them this morning to hit Iran's surface-to-air missiles. At the same time, the Israeli military deployed 200 aircraft, mainly fighter jets, to target roughly 100 targets in Iran. And today, the Israeli military says it's also destroyed dozens of radar installations.
Now, Iran's supreme leader called Israel satanic and vowed severe punishment in retaliation. Iran has been launching drones that Israel's working to shoot down, and Israel has closed its embassies worldwide. Back to President Trump. He also posted this morning a thank you to the appeals court that blocked a judge's order to stop his deploying National Guard troops to Los Angeles to deal with protests. The judge in that ruling said the president exceeded his authority. The Trump post today counters that he saved L.A. In India, they found one of the black box recorders trying to figure out why this happened.
Shortly after takeoff, the plane full of fuel issued a mayday warning. It reached 600 feet and then descended into a residential area, crashing in flames.
241 passengers and crew were killed. One miraculously walked away, telling Indian TV he still can't believe he's alive. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 63 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Mayor Johnson's urging immigration advocates to protest peacefully within the next few days. Perry Williams reports.
More than 15 people were arrested during a Tuesday evening demonstration in the Loop. The mayor's chief of staff, Cristina Pacion-Zayas, says that ICE agents are ready to conduct raids in the city.
There will be tactical teams, there will be mini tanks, there will be other tools that they use in which they plan to do raids, as we saw in Los Angeles.
Mayor Johnson also accused President Trump of abusing the power of his office and trampling the U.S. Constitution.
A man is dead after he crashed his dirt bike into a pole on the south side. The collision happened early yesterday morning in the 7400 block of South Wabash. The 24-year-old was pronounced dead at the University of Chicago Medical Center. No one else was injured. Governor Pritsker is defending Illinois' immigration policies. He spoke yesterday before the U.S. House Oversight Committee.
Illinois follows the law, but let me be clear. We expect the federal government to follow the law, too. We will not participate in abuses of power. We will not violate court orders. We will not ignore the Constitution.
Pritsker clashed with Republican members of Congress, including Texas Representative Brandon Gill, who repeatedly asked the governor whether he thought that biological men should use women's restrooms. He also vowed to stand in the way of White House border czar Tom Homan, who he claims said that elected officials will be arrested if they impede ICE. News at service of Anthony DeGrotto, State Farm. Guest contributor to Get Down to Business with host Shalom Klein, heard on Sunday at 6 p.m. Hear why Anthony's team is like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. Check out the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Charlie Kirk believes ignorance is part of the problem.
He yelled, "Free Palestine." This is a pattern, and it's only continuing. What is driving this? Well, first of all, and this just needs to be said, the misunderstanding of what is actually happening between Israel and Hamas drives people to do insane stuff.
The Charlie Kirk Show, weekdays at 11, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
Did you know that AM 560 Radio has a full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 Radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners. All-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
From the Team Hawkburg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, 14 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 8 minutes. Outbound, 17 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 13 minutes. Outbound, 13 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from Tri-State to the Lakeshore Drive, 16 minutes. Outbound, 15 minutes. Traffic is a service of Team Hawkburg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hawkburg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com, lower.com, equal housing lender in MLS 1124061. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
For today, going to be mostly cloudy with a brief shower or two, high up to 78. An evening shower tonight, then partly to mostly cloudy with low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a high 78. Real pleasant come Sunday with clouds and sunshine. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day, high Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So the Three Stooges of sanctuary states, Jelly Belly, of course, Tim Walz, Kathy Hochul, on full display for public viewing yesterday before the House Oversight Committee. And segueing from our discussion of the good senator from California having to be taken out and handcuffed, taken out of a DHS briefing and handcuffed, what would happen if Tom Homan came for you, sanctuary state governors? Let's start with one of the softballs that was served up to these three neo-Marxists by Maxwell Frost, who's this honorary socialist Spice Girl from the Orlando area down in Florida.
She's a try-hard, yeah.
He is a try-hard.
Well, he's, okay.
She.
Well, you never know.
Maxwell, what would you do if Tom Homan came for you? And this was their opportunity to, be morally indignant, which is their cover for terrible public policy.
Who are we going to start with? Tim Walz at the kiddie table?
So here was Kathy Hochul to tee it up for Jelly Belly.
If Tom Homan comes to Albany to arrest me, I'll say, go for it. You can't intimidate a governor. What is this country coming to? When people can threaten us on social media and on cable news and try to stop us from doing our jobs, we're here on the front lines every day, fighting to defend our rights, our values, and the public safety of our residents. And so anything threatening our responsibility is an assault on our democracy, nothing short of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the premise of the question is specious. It's more of their histrionics. If Tom Homan came to arrest you, why would Tom Homan come to arrest you? Tom Homan said people who interfere with federal law enforcement operations will be arrested, which is the law, something we all know, something that we used to have general agreement on, but somehow if you interfere with a federal law enforcement with ICE badges in the midst of an operation, then that is legitimate.
Well, it's because Governor Newsom started that with Tom Homan, you come and get me, you come and arrest me.
Well, they all do.
So that started that whole thing.
They all do that, but I mean, it's important to say that nobody's coming for anybody to arrest anybody unless you break the law. So this is all just more kabuki theater from the full complement of them. Just as a quick aside, since we're on Hochul, that was a fun moment for her where she got to pretend like she's a serious person. Mm-hmm. And a tough governor, too. It didn't go quite as well for her when she had to face off with potentially her opponent in the gubernatorial election upcoming in New York. That would be Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who went chapter and verse on the people that have victimized New Yorkers who are in this country illegally, residing in New York, being subsidized by state and city taxpayers, thanks to Kathy Hochul's sanctuary state advocacy.
She had no defense at all.
Do you know who Sakir Khan is? You should, as the governor of New York State. Do you know?
Refresh my recollection.
He was an illegal migrant in New York. And do you know what crime he committed in addition to being here illegally?
No, I do not.
You do not. This was widely reported. He found a 15-year-old girl, threatened her with a metal pole, told her to get into the back seat of his car. He took her clothes off, and he violently raped her in Albany, New York. Do you know who Sebastian Zapita Khalil is?
I'm sure you'll tell me there's many cases.
These are high-profile cases. New Yorkers know about them, and you don't. So let's talk about Sebastian Zapita Khalil. Do you know who that is?
I don't have the specific details at my disposal, no.
Well, this is an illegal migrant in New York because of your sanctuary state policies. Do you know what crime he committed?
I'm not familiar at this moment.
I bet you're going to be familiar when I remind you. He found a sleeping woman on the subway, lit her on fire, and burned her alive. This is in Kathy Hochul's New York. And as I'm sure you are aware, and I'll remind you, that ICE issued an order to detain this violent criminal, but that was rejected by New York officials due to sanctuary state laws. Now, do you know who Raymond Rojas Basilio is?
I just want to say this. These crimes are horrific.
Because of your sanctuary state policies.
In all of these cases, we would work with ICE to remove them.
You did not in this case. They are walking on the streets because of your policies and your executive order that you signed 3 times. Now, Raymond Rojas Basilio, do you know who that is?
I'm telling you this. I will explain to you the policies of New York. We cooperate with. I know you're just trying to.
You do not. Specifically, ICE was told not to detain this individual, and he burned a woman alive on the New York subways in Kathy Hochul's New York. So I will keep on going. What about Raymond Rojas Basilio? Do you know who that is?
I'm going to tell you our overall policy, which will address all this.
I'll tell you who that is. He is an illegal who molested an 11-year-old in our state because, again, of your sanctuary state policies. This illegal was shielded from federal immigration enforcement and able to commit this heinous crime. And what about Wilson Castillo-Diaz? Do you know who that is?
I'm telling you this. We do cooperate fully with ICE in criminal prosecution. Our sanctuary
You're not advocating for these victims.
Only deal
this
with
is a 5-year-old who was raped on Long Island in Nassau County. You are not advocating on behalf of these victims. You are shielding illegals. Even in your opening statement, you prioritize putting illegals first.
That is not
Rapes
true.
of young girls, beatings of NYPD cops by illegals who are here under Kathy Hochul's failed policies, burning New Yorkers alive. This is Kathy Hochul's New York.
This is Kathy Hochul. Hey, I'm Kathy Hochul.
You talk about me?
And I'm glad.
You talk about me?
So glad you were there to enjoy that. Boy, the moral indignation subsided fairly quickly once we got to the details of the implications of the sanctuary state policies. And by the way, it really is a bad look to not know the particulars of high-profile cases that shock the conscience of your constituents.
It shocked the world. I mean, the guy, he lit her on fire and then sat there and watched her burn. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. And she had no defense. She got destroyed. You thought Brandon Johnson did a bad job? I watched 3 hours of the 7-hour hearing yesterday. That was, to me, the most poignant moment.
Well, unfortunately, you have so many of these cases, so many of these stories, and just not
7 hours long,
and not enough people in New York, in Illinois, in Minnesota, and every other sanctuary state or city jurisdiction have an appreciation for them. So this is why you have to tell the stories over and over again and put people on the spot to explain.
And bring the pictures, which they did. They brought the pictures of the victims. Well, I'm just saying you got to hit it home. You got to show the faces, and that's what they did.
Yeah,
yesterday.
And you have to connect the dots. You have to connect the dots to the policy choices. So then it was Governor Pritzker's turn to be morally indignant at the prompting of Maxwell Frost. You know, the whole, you come for me or you come for my people and you have to, figure a way around me kind of thing. Did a reprisal of that.
Thank you, Congressman. Let me begin by saying I have the highest duty to protect the people of my state. And indeed, if Tom Homan were to come to try to arrest us, I can say, first of all, that he can try. I can also tell you that I will stand in the way of Tom Homan going after people who don't deserve to be frightened in their communities, who don't deserve to be threatened, terrorized. I would rather that he came and arrested me than do that to the people of my state.
Yeah, the phony bravado combined with this false sense of being the great protector. Again, I wish this would have been pressed on him. So who are your people? Who are the people you're protecting from being vilified? Because Tom Homan and ICE are focused right now, but this isn't exclusive, on people in this country illegally who pose a public safety threat. And he was sort of pressed on that a little bit later and sort of fumbled his way through it. But so that's his opportunity to be morally indignant. And then House Oversight Committee Chairman Jim Comer raised a particular case that we know well for Pritsker to respond to, much the way Stefanik did for Hochul, and that is the case of Katie Abraham.
And Chloe.
And Katie Abraham, the Katie Abraham case was presented for a response from Pritsker.
He now faces criminal charges for reckless homicide, leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death, and driving under the influence resulting in death. And he faces a federal indictment for having a fraudulent permanent resident card, a fraudulent Social Security card, and a fraudulent use of passport. Governor Pritchard, do you agree that this illegal alien who killed Katie should never have been in the United States in the first place?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me express my condolences to the family, and those are terrible circumstances. Let me also say that anyone who commits a crime in the state of Illinois...
I understand, Governor. Should that criminal have been here in the first place? Did he have a right to be in this country illegally?
If the person is a criminal of any sort, then they ought to be...
So that person had a right to be in the United States?
They ought to be given... their due process rights, and they ought to be convicted. And
the criminal who...
Yes.
And Katie's dad and stepmom were sitting behind Pritsker.
So this is the way Pritsker got around it. Comer needed to be a little bit tighter in his Q&A, but was his presence in Champaign on that fateful day where Katie Abraham and her friend were killed by him, was that illegal? Should he have not been here? Right. And if you say he should have not been here, then your sanctuary state policy allowed him to be here. You recruited him to be here. And if you say he should have been here, well, then that this is the proximate cause of the death of those two girls. Joe Abraham was on Laura Ingram's show yesterday after attending the hearing, Katie's father. He'll be on our show on Monday. He's flying back today or this morning, or otherwise he would have been on today. But he made a really good point. This is just a father. He's not a political guy, but he's very commonsensical. And he made a good point that in terms of a takeaway from the hearing and listening to the testimony from these three stooges of sanctuary states.
What struck me, or what I found interesting throughout the whole proceedings, was that it seemed like they wanted everything to happen on the back end versus the front end, right? If you want to bring in immigrants, which I'm all for, my parents were immigrants, so I'm all for it, however many you want to bring in, but you got to do it in the front end and not have unaudited folks just coming in. And then when something happens, okay, now they're a criminal and now we'll remove them because we didn't know who they were in the first place. But when you're on the back end, it's so much tougher to clean up, and the carnage you leave, the wake that's left behind. I mean, me and my family, the rest of my life, I've got to live with this. I got to live without my baby girl, Katie. And she was, by the way, Laura, one of a kind, a beautiful soul, a witty girl, just would have been so successful in everything she would have done. Whatever it is, Katie had it, believe me. And this world, to me, will be a less interesting place now that she's not in it.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. There was one point when Pritzker sounded like he was talking out of both sides of his mouth, by the way, when it came to illegals who commit crimes.
As I have consistently said, violent criminals have no place on our streets. And if they are undocumented, I want them out of Illinois and out of our country.
Yeah, but
that's a little bit of an about face. But then he went and said what you just played earlier. I mean, he was all over the place.
Yeah.
It was such a... And then, can I give some quick unsolicited advice to Raja, who's going to run for senator? Did you see his time? He put up a picture of Trump. He started talking about how amazing the reading levels are for fifth graders in the state of Illinois, the math levels for eighth graders. These are all lies. And then he puts a picture up of Pope Leo wearing a White Sox hat, having a one-on-one conversation with the governor, like, hey, did you see this yesterday at the Vatican? I mean, be serious. There's people whose kids have died that are sitting behind the governor, and you're showing a picture of Pope Leo with a White Sox hat on, and you want to be the next senator from Illinois?
Becky and Sandwich.
Good morning, guys. It's been a while. Hey, I give Comer a D+. Listen, there are two cases that did not even get a single ounce of highlight. There's Baltazar, the gentleman in Carroll Stream, who came across the border under the Biden policy, and he murdered his baby mama of his anchor babies in Carroll Stream. That's DuPage County. So I'd love to hear what Mendrick has to say about that one when he's running. J.B. Pritsker, he basically was part of that because he ushered in those people by giving them all the free stuff by the NGOs. And then you guys got to talk about Kristi Noem being in Springfield and trying to hold up the picture of Gabriel Calixto, who murdered the left-wing liberal Emma Schaefer. And Emma Schaefer's family got all PO'd and said, oh, don't use Emma as our pawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, these people ushered her into that lifestyle. They murdered her because they put her with these illegals. And this guy had already done a crime, and he was up against the U.S. Supreme Court down in Southern Illinois, and they let him go, and he murdered her less than a year and a half later. So those are the two cases I wanted to hear about. Comer gets a D+. Sorry. LaHood, I didn't hear a damn thing from him. That was very disappointing. This was our time to shine, and they didn't do it. I'm sorry.
Well, can I play Darren here real quick? I thought Darren, he was one of the last people to speak 6.5 hours later.
As you hear these stories, and there's many others, does it cause you to rethink your sanctuary city policies or regret some of the policies you've taken as it relates to sanctuary cities? We have the lowest population in the city of Chicago now than in 100 years. People continue to flee Illinois. We have the 5th highest unemployment rate in the country, the 2nd highest property tax rate in the country, the 5th highest illegal immigration population in the country, with over 500,000 illegal immigrants leaving in Illinois. None of that got mentioned before, but that's the reality. And to be honest with you, Governor Pritsker, I wish you didn't have to be here today as my governor. I really do. But unfortunately, because of your failed policies, you have spotlighted Illinois, and that truly is unfortunate, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. And half of that is completely false and needs to be corrected.
Should he have spent his time on other topics, or what do you think of? It wasn't really a line of questioning; it was more of a statement.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
That's what
Yeah, you want to elicit something from the subjects that you're interrogating. That's the point. I mean, using your 5 minutes to speechify and tell people things they already know is not maximizing your time. What did we say in our conversation with Brandon Gill yesterday? These 3 knuckleheads, get them talking. Mm-hmm. And that's what Brandon Gill did a better job of. For example, just very specific on abolishing ICE. But, you know, it's one thing to take the rhetorical position, and it's another thing to look under the hood to see what the behavior has been. Is that consistent with this rhetorical position you're taking publicly out of political expediency? This is the way you do it.
Do you support abolishing ICE?
No, I believe we need an immigration force in the United States.
You don't.
In fact,
you believe a budget is a moral document. Is that correct?
I do.
You do. You tweeted that. Your administration gave $12,000 to the organized communities against deportations, which just this past month was marching in the streets of Chicago with signs saying abolish ICE. Do you support this?
I do not.
Is this a reflection of your moral values?
Force.
Is this a reflection of your moral values?
I do not support abolishing an immigration force.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. I don't support abolishing an immigration force, but I do fund people who do support abolishing an immigration force. And the $12,000 to the one organization Brandon Gill mentioned, as we've talked about in this program, is the tip of the iceberg in terms of the state funding, Illinois taxpayer, funding these subversives. J.B. Pritsker and his party in the supermajorities in both chambers of the legislature are funding these subversives who do support defunding ICE, who do support open borders and sanctuary cities and no accountability, no recriminations for anybody in this country illegally, no matter what they have done prior to or while they're here. That is the position they're funding. So you can say, oh, of course I don't support abolish ICE because I'm a moderate. That constitutes being a moderate in that neo-Marxist party now, which is a statement in of itself. But then we watch what you fund. And you said, and this was the key, that was good second level, Brandon Gill right there. a budget's a moral document. Well, if a budget's a moral document and spending reflects your morality, then this is the spending, fat boy. Should have stuck on that, but that was a good moment. That's how you do it.
Moment. Yeah.
Corey and Woodlawn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, thanks for taking the calls, guys. You know, the sad thing about it is when are we going to wake up the residents that live in Illinois? They constantly keep voting for these people to get in office. None of them are going to change their policies. They were there to defend their policies. We have to wait for these criminals to commit a second act. None of them deserved asylum in this country. Not a one.
Well, Corey, is this the jumping off point where you tell me you're going to run for mayor in 27?
Dan, I'm so disgusted with this state. It's not even funny.
And so you are going to...
Yeah, Corey, be the change you wish to see, man. All right, we'll keep working on you, Corey.
Did you see Pritsker yesterday, too? He said, well, I knew there was a problem with immigration and at our borders. I sent a letter to President Biden stating so. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Tough guy.
The point that Corey makes about the people waking up here, I think there is opportunity. There's opportunity in all of these blue states and big cities that have completely gone over the edge. And interestingly, we're going to have the Republican Party Chairman, Kathy Salvi, on the show at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Apparently, after some reflection, she is going to join us. So we'll ask her, because the awakening, if you will, is not possible if there's no instrumentality to express said awakening. In other words, you need candidates for the open Senate seat, credible candidate for governor, to highlight all of these issues. And on a rolling basis, you also need a party doing this on a rolling basis, not waiting for Labor Day of next year and saying, hey, we should throw up some candidates and pretend like we want to compete for political power in this state. So there is opportunity because they're so far over the edge. But it only gets consummated if you put together the necessary response team, if you will. All right, coming up at 6:36, we'll take a break from this. We'll return to it in the 7 o'clock hour, but we're going to talk about the Israeli strike against Iranian nuclear sites with Jonathan Shanzer, who's the executive director for the Foundation of Defense Democracies, at 6:36.
He is in Israel, so we'll hear from him. But first, we have to swing by that newsroom. Here's Nikki Whaley.
Good morning. It's 63 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. A federal judge is halting the Trump administration's deployment of military troops in Los Angeles.
Governor Newsom says he hopes the ruling will be followed ASAP.
I'm very hopeful this order puts that in perspective, and hopefully Donald Trump will immediately back down. The courts have ruled on the guard. They will be back under my command, and he'll be relieved.
The judge wrote in his ruling the federal government did not have the authority to nationalize California's National Guard. The White House is appealing the decision. California's Attorney General had challenged the deployment ordered by President Trump. Up to 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 U.S. Marines were sent to the city after anti-ICE protests erupted. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
There's reports that the commander-in-chief of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been killed in an Israeli attack.
Iranian state media reports General Hossein Salami was killed in an overnight strike, along with another IRGC general and multiple nuclear scientists. Israel said in a statement it launched a preemptive offensive against military and nuclear sites inside Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove the threat, while Israel's defense minister announced the country expects a retaliatory strike and a state of emergency has been declared. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says there was no U.S. involvement in the strikes against Iran. I'm Mark Mayfield.
News is a service of Fox Valley Coins in Naperville. Easy to get off at I-88 and Route 59 in Naperville. Family-owned integrity since 1981. FoxValleyCoins.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560 The Answer.
It's almost time for AM 560's annual golf outing, presented by Signature Bank. And once again, AM 560 is proud to partner with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation as they support America's first responder and military heroes, including homeless veterans, and to help America never forget 9/11. It's all happening on Wednesday, June 18th at McRae Memorial Golf Club in Barrington. Enjoy a full day of golf, meals, an awards reception, and a silent auction. Reserve your foursome today at 560theanswer.com/golf.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal relationships are essential. This is why we chose Signature Bank. Having a banking partner who understands our background, our business, and our priorities is fundamental to our success. Any bank can provide basic services, but having a bank that you can trust, one that looks out for you and treats your business like its own, that's irreplaceable.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
When a tree comes down, it doesn't just make a mess. It can crush your home, a car, cause serious injury, or worse. If you're seeing dead or hanging branches, your tree could be a ticking time bomb. Don't wait until it's too late. Call Abbott Tree Care, the emergency tree removal experts. That's ABBOTT. We're trusted across the western suburbs. On call 24/7, fully insured, and ready to respond fast after any storm. Whether it's a downed tree, tree trimming, or tree removal, Abbott Tree Care does the job right. Safely, professionally, and without cutting corners. Protect your home. Protect your family. Call Abbott Tree Care now for a free estimate at 630-681-8733 and tell them AM 560 sent you. Again, that's 630-681-8733 or go to AbbottTreeCare.com. That's ABBOTT Treecare.com. Abbott Tree Care. When danger's hanging over your head, we're here when you need us most.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
From the T. Mockford Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 15 minutes. Outbound, 25 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the old post office, 16 minutes, outbound 14 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 17 minutes, outbound about 16 minutes. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. When you're trying to find quality candidates, all the searching, screening, and interviewing can become a job itself. You need Indeed, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to interview, screen, and hire quality people. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now checking your forecast from the National Weather Service.
It'll be mostly cloudy today with a brief shower or two with a high 78. An evening shower in spots, otherwise partly to mostly cloudy tonight with low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a high 78. And real pleasant come Sunday with times of clouds and sun. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day. High Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, as anticipated, Israel launched strikes at Iranian nuclear sites to prevent the consummation of their nuclear program, the development of nuclear weapons, since that presents an existential threat, an overused phrase, but an accurate one in this case, to Israel's future existence. Not surprising, Trump at the Kennedy Center event the other night was asked about the situation in the Middle East and said this.
Could you provide an update on Iran? We're hearing reports that U.S. personnel are being moved out of the region within striking distance.
Well, they are being moved out because it could be a dangerous place, and we'll see what happens. But they are being, we've given notice to move out, and we'll see what happens.
Is there anything that can be done to dial the temperature down in the region?
They can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to allow that.
They can't have a nuclear weapon. That has been Trump's position. He reiterated it. And it's worth remembering, particularly for some on the center right, including in the MAGA sphere, that Trump, in a March letter to Iran, demanded it negotiate a nuclear deal within 2 months and dismantle its nuclear assets or face military action. The first U.S.-Iran meeting happened on April 12th, and Iran has since rejected Washington and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's proposal. So there's that backdrop, too. I'm speaking to you, Tucker Carlson, and a lot of other people that have really taken a quite hostile position towards Israel and a quite juvenile position with respect to the use of military, and we'll get to that. But first, here was Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu explaining what was done and why it was.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions.
Dave Smith, who was platformed by Rogan, actually recently by Tucker Carlson too. I mean, he's a comedian, and he's I've seen enough of him. He's okay, somewhat. It makes somewhat interesting points occasionally, but he doesn't really know anything. Israel has launched a dangerous preemptive war of aggression. It should be condemned by the United States and U.S. citizens alike. Christina Hoff Summers, somebody who does know something, responded, "The village idiot speaks." Yeah, that's about right.
That's good.
But by the way, Dave Smith doesn't even have the context right for you Rogan fans out there. I just gave you the context. President Trump's letter in March. So President Trump should condemn something that he warned about? Tucker Carlson predicted that in the first week of a war with Iran, which would be ushered in if Israel struck Iran's nuclear sites, the first week of a war with Iran could easily kill thousands of Americans, could also collapse our economy as surging oil prices trigger unimaginable inflation. Consider the effects of $30 gasoline. But the second week of the war could even be worse. Iran isn't Iraq or Libya or even North Korea. While it's often described as a rogue state, Iran has powerful allies. It's now part of the global bloc called BRICS, which represents the majority of the world's landmass, population, economy, and military power. Iran has extensive military ties with Russia. It sells the overwhelming majority of its oil exports to China. Iran isn't alone. An attack on Iran could very easily become a world war, and we'd lose. For more on this, please be joined by Jonathan Schanzer, Executive Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Previously worked as a terrorism finance analyst at the Department of Treasury. Author of Gaza Conflict 2021, Hamas, Israel, and 11 Days of War. Jonathan Schanzer, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So the statement you heard from Bibi, what's your reaction to that explanation?
It's pretty succinct. I'm here in Jerusalem now, and we were all woken up last night at around 3 a.m. Sirens are going off. We had to go into shelters. And the news began to trickle in, and what began with isolated reports of an attack here or there on the nuclear program, we soon learned that Israel was hitting multiple sites, essentially halting a nuclear breakout, but also going after the regime's ballistic missiles. They've targeted some of the more senior military officials. They've targeted some of the nuclear scientists. This is a wide and sweeping attack, as I understand it. Attacks are still ongoing right now. The Israeli Air Force is still at it several hours later, almost a half day later. And as we hear it, this could be going on now for another week or two until they say that the job is finished. This was a massive surprise to the Iranians. They thought that they were winning at the negotiating table. They thought they had outmaneuvered Trump. They thought they had outmaneuvered the Israelis. And the Israelis have obviously shown them that that was very far from the truth.
Well, how have they retaliated against you, against Israel?
So far, I've not seen anything. I have not seen one missile land in Israel. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Israelis targeted the pre-positioned ballistic missiles. I did see that the Iranians tried to send drones toward Israel. They were shot down over the Middle East. So the Jordanians, possibly the Saudis, maybe even the Iraqis were able to target those drones before they even reached Israeli airspace. So far here, everything has been very quiet, although The spokesman for the military here has warned that there will be counterstrikes and that the country needs to be vigilant. It's been very quiet on the streets here of Jerusalem today. People are not straying too far from their shelters for that reason.
Now, just to press the issue, the assertion that Bibi made that Iran may have been months away from nuclear ballistic missiles, a year, maybe even months away, and here's their end game and so forth. We've been hearing that from administrations, Democrat and Republican alike, for some time, certainly quite a bit over the last decade. So why is the belief that, why should we believe they're so close today when we've been hearing that they've been that close for a decade?
Well, I think everyone's been watching this nuclear program. And, let's be clear. The Iranians have been taking baby steps all along the way. For the last 15 years, we've been watching the Iranians test the patience of the United States. Some administrations have reacted with appeasement. Others have acted with sanctions or even veiled threats. This time it's different. They've apparently gone a lot closer than anybody ever thought they would. As I understand it right now, the reports in Israel, anyway, suggest that the Iranians had made a decision in light of these ongoing negotiations with the Trump administration, where Trump was not yielding to their demands. They made the fateful decision to move forward with a nuclear weapon. They were about to be declared in violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. There was going to be sanctions that were going to be coming down on the regime, and I think they believed that this was the time to break out. And the Israelis saw it. As I understand it, there was a mutual understanding between the Israeli system and the American system that this was the red zone. And that's why the Israelis attacked. I think it is still going to be interesting to find out how much the president knew, how much Trump knew when this all went down, and whether the Israelis got help. I have not seen any indication of the latter, but certainly I can't imagine that the administration in Washington had no idea. I think they probably knew what was coming.
Well, yeah, just even what Trump said on the red carpet at the Kennedy Center, we're moving people around because we need to, essentially. That was sort of telegraphing it. His response to the news of the strikes also sounds like it was choreographed. He posted, "No more death, no more destruction, just do it before it's too late," urging Iran to make a deal. So, he sort of takes the position of the peacemaker. Israel does the dirty work. Now come in and make the deal I told you to make 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think, though, that the deal at this point, there's not much of a deal for Iran to make. Their nuclear program is smoldering. Their nuclear scientists are dead. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps leaders are no longer breathing. When you look around right now, it's hard for me to imagine the Iranians are going to say, yeah, here's a deal. We've agreed to end our nuclear program that's already been ended. I think the question is whether we can, force the Iranian regime to capitulate and to end the reign of terror that we have watched.
Right.
When you look around these 600 days, this has been a war that Iran stoked with multiple proxies across the region.
Well, right. That's really it going forward. And Bibi made the point in his remarks, as he's made before, which is, let's not forget, this is not just Israel versus Iran. It's a significant portion of the Arab world against Iran, too. And so there's an opportunity to try. What the deal now is, as you point out, is charting a new course in the region for Iran.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I travel to Israel often. This is my third time here this year, and I was here in January and was talking to some folks in the military, and they were saying, and I didn't really think that much of it at the time, but they said, we have an opportunity right now with Iran being weak, with all of its proxies being weak, we have an opportunity to change the map of the Middle East, to chart a different course in history. And I said, okay, that sounds like big words here. But I got to say, after last night, what we're watching right now, it looks like we're on that path right now. If the Israelis can just finish the job, do it cleanly, and have a lot more leverage with the Iranians as we look toward the future.
So how do you think Hamas is going to respond to this, since they're backed by Iran?
Well, I mean, Hamas is, of course, angry, but they don't have much to fight with. And that's kind of the point here, is that Hamas is weak, Hezbollah is weak, all those Shiite militias in Syria, they're no longer. I think the one that I'm worried about are the Houthis. They're the ones that have the ballistic missiles. They may try to pop off a few of those at Israel, and, we'll see the air defenses activate if that's the case. But I must say that if you're an Iranian proxy right now and you're looking at what happened last night, you might begin to wonder whether you're still on the right side. And I hope that there's a psychological impact here of the attacks in Iran that begin to deter some of these proxies from waging this war against Israel and really so many other Arab countries, as you note, around the Middle East.
Yeah, that's a good point. The reaction, the reaction I mentioned from Tucker Carlson and others to the prospect of this, now that it has come to be. I get the criticisms of neocons, and I share some of them, but you can swing so far away from that you're also in a relatively not sensible position. Sort of a appeaser. The way they talk is almost like the way that sort of these UN globalists talk. Ironically, they treat Iran like it's part of some fictional community of nations. That you always hear this phrase from the international diplomatic types, the Council on Foreign Relations, community of nations. And as George Will pointed out long ago, I don't know how Eritrea and Iran are in community with the United States. It's like saying, I got a Tren de Aragua neighbor to my left, and I got a Chinese Communist Politburo member to my right. We're part of the same community. No, we're not. Because if you don't have a shared ethos, then you don't have a community. And that's the way I'm sort of reacting to some of the hysterical comments, really, by those who define themselves when it comes to America's global leadership as not neocons, which doesn't provide the level of detail I like in the definition of a position.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, I think when people throw the word neocon around, I don't even know if they know what they're talking about, if they know what their critique is. I mean, I think we can learn the lessons of the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, the idea that we want to, try to turn Middle Eastern countries into democracies at the point of a gun. I think we've learned our lesson there, that was really not a success. But not defeating our enemies when they threaten us, that is silly. And I do think that this new trend of neo-isolationism needs to be examined. I do understand the need to reserve American power for, perhaps an ultimate showdown with the Chinese, in 2 or 5 or 10 years' time. And I understand why we would need to keep our powder dry. But preventing Iran from going nuclear seems to me like an American value, seems to me like something that most Americans would agree with. I do question the motivations of people like Tucker Carlson. I do wonder what it is that is driving him. I worry about foreign influence. I worry about an ideological position that is not necessarily driven by the ultimate needs of this country.
Jonathan Schanzer is the executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. He's previously worked as a terrorism finance analyst at Treasury. Also the author of Gaza Conflict 2021, Hamas, Israel, and 11 Days of War. Jonathan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at mvpcfp.com. That's mvpcfp.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to mvpcfp.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities
Securities, LLC. This podcast, Alex Marlowe, brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests.
Biden was deteriorating. He was of decreased mental function. He did have major physical damage, but not necessarily the stuff that's being focused on at the moment. What's most relevant is the dementia and the brain aneurysm stuff that no one is talking about, and no one is answering that question, how much that has had an effect on his life.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:07, we're going to talk to our friend Ian Rowe, charter school founder and operator in the Bronx. He has partnered with a bunch of other academics and intellectuals to produce a new report on the impact of fatherhood, engaged fatherhood. They looked at families in Virginia, but of course it has application globally and importantly in the United States. The report is entitled Good Fathers, Flourishing Kids, The Importance of Fatherhood in Virginia. We'll talk to Ian Rowe about it at 7:07.
Just in time for Father's Day. And if you're flying, you might want to move to seat 11A. We'll explain. It is now 7 a.m. WIND, Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. Iran calls Israel's attack a declaration of war. I'm Dave Anthony, and the Iranian president vows there will be a powerful response, and Israel will regret what he calls a foolish attack as they've been firing drones that Israel's been shooting down.
Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal.
That's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Israel saying that it targeted Iran's nuclear capabilities as well as high-ranking military officials.
The strikes killed generals in charge of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and armed forces. Fox's Alex Hogan also reports from Tel Aviv.
This coordinated operation was carried out after years of planning between the IDF and Mossad. The mission included Mossad commando units smuggling vehicles of weapons into Iran, setting up a drone base in Iran, and then activating the drones this morning and using them to hit Iran's surface-to-air missiles.
President Trump will meet with his national security team this morning. He posted on Truth Social earlier, Iran must make a deal before there's nothing left. Fox's Rich Edson reads more of that from the White House.
I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told, with much more to come. The Trump administration stressing that Israel took unilateral action, that the U.S. was not involved in these strikes.
The president also posted this morning he saved L.A. while thanking an appeals court which ruled in his favor, keeping National Guard troops under his control in Los Angeles.
After a U.S. district judge called the president's move illegal and ordered him to return control of the troops to California Governor Gavin Newsom by this afternoon. The Trump administration asked the Ninth Circuit to intervene for what it called an extraordinary intrusion into the authority of the president, who sent troops in the wake of protests against his immigration crackdown.
Fox's Lillian Wu, the sole survivor of yesterday's plane crash in India, says he can't believe he's alive. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 64 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is urging immigration advocates to protest peacefully within the next few days. That's according to Perry Williams.
More than 15 people were arrested during a Tuesday evening demonstration in the Loop. The mayor's chief of staff, Cristina Pacion-Zayas, says that ICE agents are ready to conduct raids in the city.
There will be tactical teams, there will be mini tanks, there will be other tools that they use in which they plan to do raids, as we saw in Los Angeles.
Mayor Johnson also accused President Trump of abusing the power of his office and trampling the U.S. Constitution.
Michael Madigan will learn his fate today. The former Illinois House Speaker set to be sentenced in a federal courtroom after he was found guilty in February to bribery and other corruption counts. Federal prosecutors have asked for a 12.5-year prison sentence. Madigan was the longest-serving state House leader in U.S. history, spending 36 years as Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives. An elderly man is presumed dead after an apparent natural gas explosion destroyed his home in Crestwood. The blast happened yesterday at the home on Kenneth Court. Officials say a 76-year-old was inside at the time. However, he wasn't found. Fire officials say rescue efforts turned into a recovery effort. The cause of the explosion's under investigation. This news update is quickly delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Why are you sitting in Friday traffic? Time is money. When you need your important items delivered quickly, Quick Delivery Service will be there to pick it up and take it to its destination. Go to quickdelivery.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
This week on Capitol Hill is the best way to get informed on everything going on with Congress. Hosted by Tony Perkins and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
We're going to achieve over $1.5 trillion in savings. It's the largest amount of savings of any government that would ever be achieved in the history of mankind. I mean, it's a good start. It's not enough, but it's a good start.
Stay informed and become a regular listener. This week on Capitol Hill, Sundays at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 16 minutes. Outbound, 14 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 21 minutes. Outbound, 45 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 20 minutes. Outbound, 21 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 27 minutes. Outbound, 19 minutes. And on the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 15 minutes. Traffic is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com, lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
For today, going to be mostly cloudy with a brief shower or two, high up to 78. An evening shower tonight, then partly to mostly cloudy with low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a high 78. Real pleasant come Sunday with clouds and sunshine. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day, high Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. In their relentless commitment to sentimentality, the Neo-Marxist Party, as represented in this instance by Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, brought Felicia to Capitol Hill to testify. Felicia is a Zoftig single mother of four who counts on SNAP benefits to put food on the table. And those mean old Republicans are trying to take food out of the mouths of Felicia and her kids, so we're led to believe.
I am a single mom of four who are ages 21, 17, 12, and 11.
21.
I would like to tell you my story on how SNAP benefit has helped me.
21-year-old can work himself.
Go ahead. You're doing good.
Wow.
When I had my oldest daughter 21 years ago, I was working 3 jobs. One job alone, I had to pay child care. Another one to pay food, and which wasn't enough, and one to pay the bills, and I still struggled a lot. Moving forward, I am now working a full-time job as a bus monitor, and I'm a driver who transports students to specialized schools in Kansas City. As an employee of the school district, I only get paid once a month. By the time I get my bills paid, I have nothing left to pay for food and other basic needs. If it wasn't for SNAP benefits, I wouldn't be able to feed my children nor myself. I work, pay my bills, and like every other mom, I want to be sure that I have enough food to put on the table.
You read that statement that Amy Klobuchar prepared for you very well, Felicia. Amy Klobuchar's staff. So as I'm watching this video, I just can't help but think of 4 kids. Where's Dad? Or dads? I don't know. 4 kids, though. Where's the man of the house? Anybody want to ask that question? No, of course not.
Of course I didn't ask it.
You don't want to be, unfeeling. And, this continues to be a problem that we have where we feel like we need to lionize people in difficult situations, challenging situations, in many instances of their own doing, and make everything morally equivalent. And things are not morally equivalent. Not when you're talking about what is the best environment to raise kids. It's not all the same. Sorry. And our friend Ian Rowe has more scholarship on the topic. Ian Rowe is the founder of Vertex Partnership Academies. He's a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, visiting fellow at the Woodson Center, author of Agency, the 4-point plan for all children to overcome the victimhood narrative and discover their pathway to power. And he is co-author of this new report Good Fathers, Flourishing Kids, The Importance of Fatherhood in Virginia, which drew on data in Virginia for more than 13 children in 22 and 2022 and 2023 surveys on children's health to inform our understanding of the importance of fathers with some supporting data. Ian Rowe, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, thank you very much for having me. And by the way, it was 1,300 children that this survey data comes from. But thank you for highlighting that story. It's such a central question. What about dad?
Well, you know, it's funny. I remember a friend of mine, this is back during the marriage redefinition debate, and he was sitting next to a woman on a plane, and he starts chat about it because it was in the news. I don't know how the chat started, but whatever. And she took the position of, you know, marriage redefinition, and it's everything's equivalent. And my friend just asked, well, do you think dads matter? And she said, no, not really. So, you know, like a lesbian couple is the same thing as a heterosexual couple in terms of raising kids. And he said to her, well, did your dad matter to you? And then she sort of is taken aback, and then she's put in the ridiculous position of having to pretend that her dad didn't matter to her when obviously it did, because she's having to hold up a political flag rather than an intellectual one.
Well, this is the issue. Somehow we've gotten to a place in our society where it's shameful to mention the importance of fathers. That somehow somehow you're embarrassing if you, like this woman who clearly leads a tough life. But we have to have the courage to talk about the very responsibilities that fathers provide and the benefits that fathers provide. I mean, that's what led Governor Youngkin in Virginia to ask a very diverse group of scholars from every political spectrum to analyze this question. What's the impact of fathers? Like, are they irrelevant? And we are on the eve of Father's Day, so I'd love to say, happy Father's Day to all of your listeners. And also, frankly, thank you to all the moms who make fathers more engaged, because I'm about to share with you some statistics. But what this report really shows that it's not just about fatherhood. It's about this idea of engaged fathers.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead.
No, well, you focus on Virginia, and you wrote that 1 in 4 Virginia children live in a home without their biological fathers. That's a lot higher number than I thought.
It's unfortunate. There are too many kids growing up in situations where they're either they're not living with their dads at all, or they have estranged relationships. What we were able to find was that when you look through this national surveys of children's health, there was a real difference between the outcomes for kids relative to fathers who were engaged, as defined by fathers who ensured that the family ate together at least 4 days a week. It's actually quite a very simple indicator, and the fathers also self-reported that they handled the demands of raising children, quote, very well. But when fathers are eating with their kids and their families at least 4 days a week, incredibly different outcomes, and just differently for boys and girls. From a mental health perspective, whereas only 1 girl in 100, that's 1%, with an engaged father is depressed, 10 times as many girls are depressed when their father is unengaged or less involved, right? That's how it affects girls from a mental health perspective. Boys who are more prone to what's called externalizing, behavioral outbursts, less than a quarter of boys with engaged fathers, 22%, are likely to get in trouble in school if they have a father engaged, relative to more than a third, 35% of boys with less involved fathers. So it's just very interesting. Engaged fathers matter to both boys and girls. They just matter very differently. And what we were able to find was, what is it that actually encourages a man to become an engaged father in the first place, because there are also very differences, not only when the father is engaged, but also when it's a married couple. And in fact, we have all sorts of discussions around race in our country. It turns out that more than 85% of the kids in this survey who are being raised in a married, intact family get mostly A's and B's in school, right? But kids, black or white, black and white, but kids, black and white, who are not being raised in a married family, fewer than 2/3 of black and white children from unintact families get good grades. The point being that family structure matters even beyond race. So this discussion about not only the roles of fathers, engaged fathers, and then one step further, married fathers, married parents. We just have to have the courage to talk about this if we really care about outcomes for kids.
Well, we can do a workaround with respect to this whole marriage thing, just by family leave for men, paid family leave for men, and reforms to child support, and then that'll close the gap between the unmarried and the married, right?
Yeah, this is where the argument really falls down, because we lack the courage to really just focus on the ideal. Look, we all recognize that situations happen where a child will be born and the parents don't get along, and so there is reality in the sense of are there interventions, whether it's better child support? Sure, I'm sure there are things we can do at the margin. But as you just said, these are not all morally equivalent in terms of family structure. And so there is a movement afoot to try and say, no, it doesn't matter to a kid if their parents are married. Let's treat all types of fatherhood the same. And in fact, there's a movement afoot to say, well, fatherhood should be its own institution, independent of marriage, and even independent of the father living with the kid. Let's treat those all the same. And if we just have these technical interventions like family paid leave, somehow that'll make up for the difference of what a kid gets when they're raised in a married two-parent household. The fundamental flaw in this new ideology to create fatherhood as its own independent institution is that it forgets the idea that marriage is the institution that first bonds the man to his spouse, even before children are present. That's the essential bond that then says when those two people come together and have a child, they now have this dual commitment to the child. By saying that, we're not denigrating single mothers. We're not saying that they're bad people. But this is the ideal that we should be encouraging, certainly all young people, to aspire to, and not to create this false equivalency where somehow any behavior is okay. And so we have to hold dads accountable. We have to encourage more young people to, when they think about family formation, they think about things like what we teach in our schools, something called the success sequence.
Yeah.
Which says that if a young person gets their high school degree, then a full-time job of any kind, so they learn the dignity and discipline of work, and then if they have children, if they get married first, that series of decisions, education, work, marriage, then children, in that order, 97% of young people who follow that series of decisions avoid poverty. And it is very likely that their children will avoid poverty as well, to break the cycle that, unfortunately, that mom that you talked about at the beginning of the show, it's unfortunate that it is far more likely that her kids are going to face the kind of existence that she has had.
Well, right. And the government is just doing a bang-up job raising kids, isn't it? I mean, nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. And yet you have these model-in presentations for the idea of continuing to expand the welfare state and subsidize dependency, and then subsidize generations of dependency.
Well, it's all in this category of luxury beliefs where people, they'll say one thing, but they would never do this in their own lives. And it comes from this sort of weird empathy or weird compassion to say, no, we can't criticize these family structures. They're all the same, but they have real consequences. There's a sociologist, Kathy Eden, who's done a lot of research on this front, and she's coined this term, family go-around. And the family go-around is what occurs when, a couple will have a child outside of marriage, and there's this phenomenon of what she calls reparenting, where basically both that mom and the dad, right, these single parents, will go on to have more children with different people, so that more than half of children born to unmarried parents will see their moms or dads form up to 4 or more romantic relationships during the first 5 years of the kid's life. Those are real consequences. While we're having these attitudes of like, no, it's all fine, they're all the same, they're real adverse impacts to kids. And so when I appeal to folks who feel like, no, we're being too judgmental, it's not being judgmental. We're just sharing actual data and actual evidence of the environments that really matter to kids.
And by the way, and by the way, I mean, just to refresh, I know you've been on the show many times, but to refresh people's recollection, I mean, Ian Rowe is not an Ivy Tower intellectual. He's an intellectual, but you're a practitioner too. So you see this in the real world in the schools that you run.
Of course. I mean, I run schools, for the last 15 years in low-income communities in the Bronx. And unfortunately, the non-marital birth rate in the community where we currently have our high school is 85%. Nearly 9 in 10 babies that are born outside of marriage. Now, of course, it's always important to say that simply because a child is born to a single parent, that's not a guarantee of failure, nor is it that if a child is born to a married two-parent household, that's a guarantee of success.
Of course.
But even with that caveat, the data is overwhelming what the likely outcomes for the kids are that are born into impoverished single-parent situations. So we just have to be honest. And we have to help young people think differently. So even if they were born into that situation, it's not about the family that you're from. It's about the family that you're on the pathway to form. So which is why in our report we advocate, because there's a cultural element of this. So even things like PSA campaigns targeted at young boys, and it shows young women saying what they want in future husbands and fathers. I think that, I used to work at MTV many years ago. There's a component of cultural awareness to shifting attitudes and behaviors. We should be teaching the success sequence in schools. We should have apprenticeship type models so that young men in particular in high school can pursue industry credentials where they're far more employable, which then affects marriageability. So there are lots of things we can do to change the culture, to shift the attitude so that if a young person is born into this situation, they're not trapped there. But the first thing we have to do is to be honest.
Yeah, and real quick, what did you do for MTV?
He hosted Club MTV with downtown Julie Brown at the Palladium, right?
Well, actually, what's very important is that when I was at MTV, I ran all of what's called pro-social programming. So if you remember, for example, the Truth campaign around smoking, where we changed attitudes around young people, we managed the campaign around teen pregnancy, where we helped young people think differently about their futures. They had a future orientation, which then led to make the different decisions about protecting their sexual health. So there is a cultural component around how to change attitudes around family formation, about relationships, about having children outside of marriage. These things matter. And so this is why this report, even though it's focused in Virginia, we think can have national implications about how we help young people think differently about what is possible in their lives, starting with relationships, family formation, and this idea for young men of that there's another kind of sequence, which is that it's courtship, marriage, husbandhood, then fatherhood.
Are you the guy that came up with the boxers or briefs question for Bill Clinton at that MTV town hall? Was that you?
Deep dish or thin crust?
That preceded my time.
Ah, I see.
Did you? By the way,
yeah.
one other thing I'll mention is that not only did I work at MTV in my past, I also worked at the White House many years ago. And when we were thinking about social welfare policy, we had, and this is related again to the mother that you featured at the beginning of this piece. We had this philosophy of the 3 T's when it came to social welfare policy: timely, targeted, and temporary. So timely meant, if you're going to help people with public benefit, get it to them, when they actually need it, right? So timely. Targeted meant let there not be a lot of bureaucracy, let it actually go to the people that need it. And then temporary, meaning that it's short-lived, that you're trying to do things that give a person a leg up. They may need some temporary assistance, but it doesn't become a way of life. And the thing that really strikes you about that conversation, that testimony, when that mother says, I really need these benefits to survive, where in there is the temporary component? Because
right, she's got a 21-year-old daughter, right?
Dignity, yes. Timely, targeted, and temporary.
Well, the other thing too on this, and you know this, Bob Woodson makes the point all the time, all these poverty programs did was fund the poverty program bureaucracies. And so even the well-intended, what you end up doing is creating dependency both in terms of the middlemen, the bureaucracies, as well as the recipients. And so it's exponentially more than would have been originally predicted, particularly when it's open-ended.
It's a fact. And again, this isn't theory. There are many, many studies that show that perverse incentives, like offering welfare benefits with, for example, without any work requirement or any sort of temporary provision, leads to dependency. And unfortunately, it contributes to a cycle of deprivation, which is why you see intergenerational transmission of disadvantage. For many of us who run schools or work on reports like we just do, we're not doing this to be callous people. We care very much for that mom. I don't want her to be in that situation. Most importantly, I don't want her 4 children to be in that situation. But the way that we prevent this from happening in the future, it's got to start with an honest appraisal of the importance of family structure, the importance of mothers and fathers together in a commitment first, even before they have children. And again, I will say this again, this is not demonizing single parents, but you cannot ignore the data of what happens when kids are raised in different types of family environments. On the margins, we should assist when the things aren't ideal, but we have to keep pushing for the ideal.
Ian Rowe is the founder of Vertex Partnership Academy, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, visiting fellow at the Woodson Center, author of Agency, the 4-Point Plan for All Children to Overcome the Victimhood Narrative and Discover Their Pathway to Power, Agency, the 4-Point Plan. And the latest report we've been discussing, Good Fathers, Flourishing Kids, the Importance of Fatherhood in Virginia. And importantly, as was mentioned, you had groups, organizations participating in this scholarship that included the Brookings Institution, the National Center for Black Life Family at Hampton University. So this isn't just philosophical conservatives.
It's a very politically diverse.
Yes.
When you've got American Enterprise Institute, Brookings, National Center for Black Institute for Family Studies. This is coming from a place of there is consensus on this. Fatherhood matters, but the type of fatherhood. Engaged fathers, again, as defined as at least having dinner 4 times a week for all you dads out there. That's something you could measure that. But then what is it that leads fathers to be engaged? Marriage. And, so we need good moms and good dads.
Ian Rowe, Thanks as always, Ian. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan and Amy.
Yep, and happy Father's Day. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, we'll return to our distillation of what was offered up by Governor Pritsker and the other sanctuary state stooges at 7:37.
And there was a moment of levity, but now let's head back into that newsroom. Here's Nikki Whaley.
Good morning. It's 64 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is slamming Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
This after U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was handcuffed while the secretary was giving a press briefing.
I served with the secretary for probably about 10 years in Congress. And Madam Secretary, I do not recognize you anymore. I do not know Kristi Noem that I served with for 10 years.
Bass questioned how authorities didn't recognize one of California's sitting senators when they wrestled him to the ground and restrained him. She went on to criticize Noem, pushing back on her claims that Los Angeles is a war zone. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Whole food locations across the country are starting to see shortages after a major supplier was hit by a cyber attack last week. United Natural Foods reported on Monday that the company had to take some systems offline to deal with the attack. United Natural Foods reported Monday that they had to take some systems offline to deal with an attack that had temporarily impacted their ability to handle customer orders. A spokesperson for Whole Foods says the grocery chain is working to restock shelves as quickly as possible. News is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher is witnessing evil.
A guy from Egypt screaming Free Palestine named Mohammed, lighting Jews on fire in Boulder, Colorado, and CNN is upset at calling what appears to be an obvious terror attack a terror attack. My gosh, this is what we're up against. We're up against a brand of evil that we've never seen before.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Charlie Kirk at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $257. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available. Financing is flexible. And at Air Right, installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere, delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Samsung TV Plus, channel 1177.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but you need to vacate this home.
Why
Hi, officer. I own this home free and clear. I lived here for 40 years.
Well, unfortunately, this paperwork says otherwise.
But I have nowhere else to go.
I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am.
This story is becoming all too common in the U.S. Scammers are preying on people with high equity or who own their homes free and clear of a mortgage. Only one company completely protects you. That's Equity Protect. Get your free risk report by texting the word HOME to 94878. Again, text the word HOME to 94878 to get your free risk report from Equity Protect.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 16 minutes. Outbound, 14 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 21 minutes. Outbound, 45 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 20 minutes. Outbound, 21 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 27 minutes. Outbound, 19 minutes. This report is sponsored by Wendy's. Big news, bacon lovers. Wendy's Son of a Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. Just for $3, you'll get crispy, crunchy, apple smoked bacon, 2 juicy beef patties, and plenty of cheese on a burger. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
It'll be mostly cloudy today with a brief shower or two with a high 78. An evening shower in spots, otherwise partly to mostly cloudy tonight with low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with high 78. And real pleasant come Sunday with times of clouds and sun. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day. High Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Been interesting just perusing the lead stories from these asinine network affiliate morning shows in Chicago. It's all about, in addition to human interest stories, their lead is about the House voting to slash government funding of NPR and PBS, government funding of government-run media. That's their lead, the navel-gazing nature of the Chicago press corps against the backdrop of their governor and the mayor of Chicago weighing in no uncertain terms about sanctuary policies that have real and immediate financial and public safety impacts on 13 million Illinoisans. It's just such a nice juxtaposition between, frankly, what we do here and what everybody else does in the Chicago press corps. Really is. So with no further ado, let's get back to the testimony that one Governor Jelly Belly offered before the House Oversight Committee yesterday. We mentioned his response to the question Brandon Gill put to him do you support abolishing ICE earlier in the program, in which he said, no, I don't support abolishing ICE. But then Brandon Gill said, well, then why are you funding organizations that support abolishing ICE with other people's money? Because that's exactly what he's doing. Well, it's not the only such instance where Jelly Belly was less than forthright. Imagine that. I know. Shocking. Byron Donalds tried to get the same information out of him that he tried to get out of BLM Brandon when BLM Brandon was before the same committee, which is, you're a competent executive. You're on top of things. So how much has the state of Illinois spent on people in the state of Illinois, residing in the state of Illinois, who are in this country illegally? And here was that exchange.
Thank you, Chairman. To piggyback off my colleague, Governor Pritsker, how much does the state of Illinois spend on illegal immigration every year?
Again, illegal immigration, that's a federal responsibility. They could tell how much is wasted as a result of their failures.
Governor, don't you keep track of how many people are on your Medicaid rolls, how many people who are illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois who are getting actually benefits in your state? Doesn't your government keep track of that?
They don't get Medicaid in Illinois or any state, as far as I know.
Governor Pritsker, you do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget, and we're very closely. And in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money, because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem.
Yeah, it is kind of an Illinois problem, Byron.
Good for your congressman.
So, of course, he's lying. First of all, Illinois hasn't balanced a budget in 30 years, and they still haven't, because it's all phony accounting, not including unfunded pension liabilities and not budgeting for what is required to fund those ballooning liabilities. So that's just a lie, and it's a lie that's been told by Republicans and Democrats. Jelly Belly's just the latest political hack telling the same old lie. But more to the point, on the spend for people in this country illegally residing in Illinois that were recruited to come here, by the way, recruited to come here by Jelly Belly and BLM Brandon and the entire political power structure in the state. I mean, the estimates, and we've talked about this at some length with Ted Dabrowski from WirePoints, the estimates are between $2.5 and $3 billion. For example, this was reported a couple of months ago. State audits have found that Illinois spent more than $1.6 billion on migrant care through July of last year, which was far more than anticipated. And Pritsker is pretending to be unaware that the quote-unquote immigrant adult health care programs would include people in this country illegally residing in Illinois. But of course they do. And it's the only thing that explains, in addition to, bad actuaries, the projected cost of these programs and how exponentially wrong those projections were. Health benefits for immigrant seniors created during the pandemic in 2020 serves those over the age of 65. Health benefits for immigrant adults created in 2022 serves ages 42 to 64. It was estimated the senior program would cost $224 million. It cost $412. The adults program overruns even more dramatic. The expected cost was originally $126 million for a 3-year period. The actual expenditures came to $485 million, 4 times higher. In 2023, total costs outpaced expected spending by $400 million. The audit also found the state spent an additional $719 million for fiscal year 2024. I mean, so it just continues. And part of what was lamented in this latest budget, I mean, not to get too deep in the weeds with numbers here, but this is somewhat important. Part of what was lamented is that there was some clawing back of these programs in the most recently passed unbalanced budget because they were out of cash. So, that exchange is important just because it's a reminder of the hundreds or tens of millions, really hundreds of millions that the city has spent, the billions the state has spent of your money to provide for people that were recruited to come to this state who are in this country illegally. And that's part of the story. This is why you heard Pritsker mumble through it and pretend to be a bit obtuse on what Byron Donalds was getting at.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You can also text us on that very same line. And Pritsker, after the 7 hours of hearing, just so you know, he has a new attack phrase. Are you ready? Do you see if this is going to stick, Dan? The Republicans who ran this hearing are a parade of horribles. He said nothing was accomplished during the hearing other than a dissemination of falsehoods. I think some falsehoods came from him, too, don't you think?
Just as an additional aside, I mean, because there were other topics covered, and this actually is related to the illegal immigration problem, because among those that were allowed into this country, invited into this country by Biden and Pritsker and the power structure of that neo-Marxist party over the last 4 years prior to Trump's rearrival, people that are on the terrorist watch list, people that are known terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brandon Gill, going back to Brandon Gill, asked Pritsker again about the difference between his rhetorical positions and his funding decisions. Because, again, as Pritsker stipulated, a budget is a moral document. It reflects our values.
Support Hamas's agenda.
Sir, I do not. They are a terrorist organization.
Your administration gave a grant to the Muslim Civic Coalition, which just 2 weeks after October 7th was marching in the streets of Chicago to, quote, stop the U.S.-backed genocide against Gaza. Is that a reflection of your values?
I have spent my life fighting anti-Semitism.
No, I'm asking, is this a reflection of your values?
I'm not sure why you're attacking me about something in an organization.
Because your administration gave money to this organization.
I'm explaining to you that what we do in the state of Illinois is stand up for what we believe are.
You didn't have to give money to the Muslim Civic Coalition.
People have the right to express themselves.
To stop the U.S.-backed genocide against Gaza. That was your choice.
I know.
Right. People have the right to express themselves, but they don't have the right to taxpayer dollars to do so. That was a choice you made, and it was a moral choice because budgets are a moral document. So you use state taxpayer dollars to fund organizations that promote abolishing ICE and do a lot more than that. As we've documented in our Illinois Doge series, you made the choice. Well, I've dedicated my life to combating anti-Semitism, Hamas, a terrorist organization, but over here, because I'm pandering in the way that identitarians do to this coalition of other identitarian neo-Marxists, I'm allocating Illinois taxpayers' money to a pro-Hamas group. So on the one hand, this is what you say. On the other hand, this is what you do. And you say those decisions are moral decisions. You say it's your budget. You're so proud of it. You said it's balanced. It's not, but this is your line. So you can't have it both ways. This is my budget and it's balanced. It reflects my morality. But, this spend here and this spend there. No. I don't know why you're talking to me about those organizations that I funded. That was a nice exposure by Brandon Gill. Something that the Republican Party in this state should be doing more often on a routine basis. Marty in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, listen to this clown. He's Fred Flintstone in a suit. And then I forgot who it was from Illinois, a Republican said something. He keeps looking at him and goes, do your job. Do your job. All he's doing is throwing things back. And he brings up, of course, nobody's supposed to bring anything up. But he brings up the insurrection of, the insurrection without the weapons in January. He's Fred Flintstone in his suit, and he proves it every time he talks. So, thanks for the time.
Thanks for the call, Marty. The other Brandon Gill moment with Pritsker, just so
great.
that we check the box here, this was getting a little far afield, but when you have a jelly belly in front of you, you might as well poke him.
Why not, man?
And so
find those old tweets, bring them up.
Bringing in the Pritsker position when it comes to the trans identitarian coalition partner of the neo-Marxist Party.
Do you think men should be allowed in women's restrooms?
I'm not sure why this has come to this issue.
You tweeted that as a protest against President Trump, everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today. Have you ever used the women's restroom?
Not that I can recall ever, sir.
You wanted everybody else to do it, but you didn't?
Oh, it's great.
Sir, I'm not sure why we're on a topic that has nothing to do with
you're advocating for men to use women's restrooms, but you didn't do it?
I do not advocate that, no.
Well, actually, you did. You said everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today.
I can tell you that you are politicizing this in a way that what we ought to be focusing on is
the failure
of the federal government
to use women's restrooms
and the Congress to deal with immigration reform.
Do you regret encouraging men to use women's restrooms?
Again, you're taking us on topics that have.
Did you ever consider that women don't want you in their bathrooms?
He has considered that because and that's why he took all the toilets out of his house.
Right. That's what I was hoping would be the follow-up, but that's real inside baseball. But you know what? Brandon Gill, he did a great job. And that was the moment of levity. If any were like me and pursued and watched it for 3 to 4 hours.
Alan in Rockford.
Hey, Dan. Hey to me. Since Pritsker has taken office, according to Illinois policy, we're all paying $19 billion more in taxes. And a couple of other things that he said yesterday really bothered me when he refers to Illinois as his state and refers to the residents as his people.
We're his peeps.
And yet, right, we're not. And I'll be letting Steve Solomon, my senator, know that. But more importantly, yesterday in Rockford, Tom McNamara comes out and says that illegal immigrants are a solid fabric of our communities. Our fabric is torn if that's the case, and I would like to ask him how we can refer to individuals as fabric of our communities when all they're doing is relocating and reallocating federal dollars or state dollars given to them in the form of payments. And I guess they're spending that money in the community, so that expenditures helps the tax revenue base, and that's why they're fabric of the community. I'd love to hear your opinion on that, Dan.
Yeah, well, thanks for the call, Alan. There's something else about that, too, a point we made before when it comes to these open-ended expansions of state, federal health care programs like Medicaid, is what not only do you spend beyond your means, not only is the opportunity cost of spend that could be devoted to people paying full freight to reside in Illinois who are here legally, but you also bastardize the program and its intended beneficiaries. You actually worsen the care that the program is intended to provide for pregnant women, indigent children, and people with disabilities. Even if they get care, now they're in queue with a bunch of people here in this country illegally who are also being covered by this program. It's the same thing when Blagojevich tried to expand it to be a middle-class entitlement. Again, for people it was never intended to serve. And this is what happens with these government programs. So you run around talking about how much you care about vulnerable communities, and then here we go, the difference between what they say and then watching what they do. And then you act in furtherance of worsening the quality of care for said communities because you're too busy playing politics with the program rather than making sure that it operates to provide some benefit as it was conceived to provide. Right. Over and over and over again, you see it. But it needs to be relentlessly pointed out, I think, to penetrate the consciousness of so many residents of Illinois. Verlon, Michigan.
Hey, how's it going? I looked at all 7 hours and 27 minutes.
Wow.
And all I thought about when I looked at those three governors is that they look like 3 grilled cheese sandwiches. And I just had thought of grilled cheese.
Gee,
I don't know why.
Grilled cheese?
You're gonna put me off grilled cheese for good.
Yeah, come on.
I don't want to think
get in my head.
But I got a question for the both of you. Who do you think was the best interrogator? My money was on Marjorie Taylor Greene because after she spoke about Laken Riley and her horrible death, because I know a lot of people get bent out of shape because of the money, like you're talking about right now, that we spend on illegals. But all I think about is the loss of life. And when Marjorie Taylor Greene laid into Hochul about the loss of life.
No, it was.
I think it was Elise Stefanik was the best.
Yeah, Elise Stefanik.
No, well, she did. No, she did too.
Yeah.
She did too.
Yeah, Elise Stefanik was better.
She owned Kathy Hochul.
And she's got that Harvard education. She's a little bit more polished. But thanks for the call, Verlon. And Brandon Gill is good. I mean,
Brandon Gill was great.
You want to expose through question and answer the ruses that these politicians are running, and Brandon Gill did the best at that. You can the moral scorn that you heap on people like Hochul and Pritsker is also important and appropriate, particularly when it comes to things like violations of children and the deaths and the injuries that have been inflicted on people, all preventable crimes. That's important too. But what Brandon Gill provides sort of next level,
In
and he
your
did
face.
he did yesterday.
But also, and the worst, Tim Walz. I mean, he you can't defend the indefendable. I mean, that guy just sat there. He's a mimbo. And to think that he was almost our vice president is some scary stuff.
Tim Walz was positively conciliatory when he had a chance to be morally indignant. He just tried to be Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Bipartisan Guy. Hey, fellas, remember I used to serve here with you. We're all friends. We got to work together and stuff.
Sitting here listening today again, there's many of you in here, friends on both sides of the aisle that I served here. The job of governor is very different.
They raise their hand if they want to admit to being a friend of Tim Walz.
We need to work together. No one here wants to hear these horrific stories, but we have a job to do.
Yeah, and so on and so forth. No one wants to hear. No,
God forbid if we hear him. But the guy behind you, 4 rows, he's living the hell because an illegal killed his daughter.
Yeah.
Sorry to bother you, Tim Walz.
It is
just gyrating hands. I can't stand him.
It is uncomfortable to hear the stories. Maybe somebody should do something about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, coming.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When a tree comes down, it doesn't just make a mess. It can crush your home, a car, cause serious injury, or worse. If you're seeing dead or hanging branches, your tree could be a ticking time bomb. Don't wait until it's too late. Call Abbott Tree Care, the emergency tree removal experts. That's ABBOTT. We're trusted across the western suburbs. On call 24/7, fully insured, and ready to respond fast after any storm. Whether it's a downed tree, tree trimming, or tree removal, Abbott Tree Care does the job right. Safely, professionally, and without cutting corners. Protect your home. Protect your family. Call Abbott Tree Care now for a free estimate at 630-681-8733 and tell them AM 560 sent you. Again, that's 630-681-8733 or go to AbbottTreeCare.com. That's ABBOTT Treecare.com. Abbott Tree Care. When danger's hanging over your head, we're here when you need us most.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Illinois Republican Party State Chairman Kathy Salvi at 8:08.
And then later, Open Mic Friday. We'll take your calls, and I have something I'd like to get off my chest. I'm sure Dan does too. Today it's going to be mostly cloudy, no sunshine, brief shower or two, a high of just 78 degrees. And then tomorrow, a lot going on in Chicago. We're going to have times of clouds and sun and a high of 78 degrees. And on Sunday, Father's Day, pleasant with some sunshine, dry conditions for outdoor plans. Get out and enjoy a high of 82 degrees. It's now 8 a.m. WIND Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. Israel continues to attack Iran. I'm Dave Anthony.
They were going to initiate another attack like October 7th. Once we gathered the information about that, we decided not to wait.
An Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danone, also tells Fox they had to stop Iran from making nuclear weapons.
The mission included Mossad smuggling vehicles and drones into Iran, setting up a drone base in Iran, and activating the drones this morning to hit Iran's surface-to-air missiles. At the same time, the IDF deployed 200 aircraft. These were mainly fighter jets to hit roughly 100 targets in Iran. All of this aimed at hitting the heart of Iran's nuclear program.
Fox's Alex Hogan also reports from Tel Aviv the strikes killed military leaders, including top generals. Iran's been firing drones in retaliation that Israel's been shooting down.
Iran's president responding, saying that its level of force and its actions will make Israel regret the actions that it took earlier today.
So Israel's closed its embassies worldwide and told Israelis abroad to avoid Jewish displays in public places. Don't post your locations on social media and avoid large gatherings. President Trump warned Iran on Truth Social to make a deal before there's nothing left, calling it perhaps a second chance, warning things will get worse after Iran, in talks with the U.S., rejected demands to stop enriching uranium. They found one of the black box recordings from the Air India flight that crashed as investigators try to figure out why the plane went down right after takeoff, hitting a building and then exploding, as the sole survivor tries to figure out why he didn't die. Vishwash Kumar, Ramesh's brother, says it's a miracle.
He video called my dad. As he crashed, he said, our plane's crashed. All of that. I don't know where my brother is. I don't see any other passengers. I don't know how I'm alive, how I exited the plane.
All 241 other passengers and crew on board died. So did others in the charred building on the ground. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 66 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Mayor Johnson's urging immigration advocates to protest peacefully within the next few days. Perry Williams reports.
More than 15 people were arrested during a Tuesday evening demonstration in the Loop. The mayor's chief of staff, Cristina Pacion-Zayas, says that ICE agents are ready to conduct raids in the city.
There will be tactical teams, there will be mini tanks, there will be other tools that they use in which they plan to do raids, as we saw in Los Angeles.
Mayor Johnson also accused President Trump of abusing the power of his office and trampling the U.S. Constitution.
A man is dead after he crashed his dirt bike into a pole on the south side. The collision happened early yesterday morning in the 7400 block of South Wabash. The 24-year-old was pronounced dead at the University of Chicago Medical Center. No one else was injured. Governor Pritsker is defending Illinois' immigration policies. He spoke yesterday before the U.S. House Oversight Committee.
Illinois follows the law, but let me be clear. We expect the federal government to follow the law, too. We will not participate in abuses of power. We will not violate court orders. We will not ignore the Constitution.
Pritsker clashed with Republican members of Congress, including Texas Representative Brandon Gill, who repeatedly asked the governor whether he thought that biological men should use women's restrooms. He also vowed to stand in the way of White House border czar Tom Homan, who he claims said that elected officials will be arrested if they impede ICE. News is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off of any service, including inspections. Don't wait for a heat wave for that old air conditioner to break down. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but now time for the Signature Bank Business Beat.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stocks are under pressure and crude oil prices have been rising to the highest levels since January after Israel launched strikes against Iran. Gold prices are rising. There are concerns about a broader escalation of tensions in the Middle East. Analysts at Capital Economics say global inflation is not likely to see a sustained spike despite a rise in oil prices. Your new iPhone may be coming from India. Nearly all the iPhones made in India by Foxconn for export are now going to the U.S. to bypass tariffs imposed on China. Reuters used customs data for the estimate. Last year, about half the exported phones from India came to the U.S., the rest to other countries. Neither company is commenting. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Mike Gallagher sees the blame game again.
I mean, in California, every California crisis is blamed on Trump. The wildfires, Trump's fault. The empty, water reservoirs, Trump's fault. Budget deficit, his fault. And now the riots in L.A., his fault. What does Gavin Newsom take responsibility for?
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Charlie Kirk at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Let's see. If something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into. And that's MetaShare. Maybe you've heard joining MetaShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge. But it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MetaShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE. Bible.
Does your garage floor look bad, cracked, or stained from Chicago's brutal winters? Contact my good friends at Level 10 Coatings. Level 10 brought my garage floor from dirty, gross, to showroom shiny new in just one day. Level 10 Coatings can do the same for you. A quick and easy fix, gleaming permanent solution. Guaranteed to never crack or chip. Mention me, Amy, for $500 off. Get it done now so you can enjoy your garage all summer long. Level 10 uses polyurea, which is superior to epoxy. One day and they're gone. They'll even help move your stuff out of your garage. Schedule your free quote today and mention Amy to receive $500 off. Just visit level10coatings.com. Level10coatings.com or call 855-510-2628. Again, that's 855-510-2628. Level 10 Coatings, your premier concrete coating experts.
Big or small, we coat them all. Level 10 Coatings, your custom concrete coating solution.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, 15 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 34 minutes. Outbound, about 41 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 31 minutes. Outbound, about 30 minutes. You've also got an accident, left lane blocked, going to be between Cicero and Austin Boulevard. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State out to Lakeshore Drive, 25 minutes. Outbound is about 30 minutes. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 17 minutes. Outbound about 12 minutes. And on the Chicago Skyway, westbound from the Indiana State Line to the Dan Ryan, 7 minutes. And the opposite direction, 4 minutes. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
For today, going to be mostly cloudy with a brief shower or two, high up to 78. An evening shower tonight, then partly to mostly cloudy with low 61. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a high 78. Real pleasant come Sunday with clouds and sunshine. Dry for outdoor plans on Father's Day, high Sunday 82. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So a couple weeks back on our Open Mic Friday, we had a caller call in, a gentleman who asked for my opinion as to whether or not he should make a donation to the Illinois Republican Party. And I said, I can't recommend that you do that in good faith because I don't know what the Illinois Republican Party does. I certainly don't know what it stands for, and I haven't for a long time. Preceding our next guest. As I wrote earlier this week in my piece about Mike Madigan's sentencing for JohnCastNews.com, which happens today, for 3 decades, as far as I could tell, the Illinois Republican Party focused its identity as not Mike Madigan. And it was, Mike Madigan's the problem. If you send him away and we stay, things will get better. Always an odd thing to me is defending yourself in the negative as I've said many times. It's like somebody asks you what your kid does for a living, and you say he's not a drug dealer. That's an odd way to respond to a question of, like, who are you, or what are you about? And that's the way that we've done it. And then Mike Madigan goes away, and there's barely a whimper, and nobody can figure out how to capitalize on anything, even though the other side hung George Ryan around the necks of Republicans for the better part of 4 or 5 election cycles. So there's a level of incompetence, there's a level of cowardice, there's a level of visionless. Those are the characteristics of Illinois Republican messaging, establishment messaging for, I don't know, the last 20 years, 25 years or so. And a lot of that is because we had enemies inside the perimeter, as you've seen present themselves over the last several years, as Jim Edgar became Jelly Belly's debate sparring partner, and is writing letters of calling for leniency on behalf of Mike Madigan for his decades of hard work on behalf of Illinoisans, and so on and so forth. And there's no quality control within the party. And this is, again, a long-standing problem that predates our next guest. But because she is the state party chairman now, you have to go to people with titles in the party that have responsibilities ostensibly associated with the titles. And so you say, well, what is going on? What are you doing? Why should we engage? Why should we provide financial support? Why should I run for office? These are all legitimate questions, not just to be put to Kathy Salvi, but to be put to Tony McCombie in the House and John Curran in the Senate, and any statewide candidates that present themselves or aspire to do so. I'll give Kathy Salvi an opportunity to answer that question and tell me if I'm wrong, how I'm wrong. Kathy Salvi, State Party Chair, Illinois Republican Party. Kathy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be on your show. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Amy, for having me here. You know, the last time I was here, I was a candidate for statewide office in 2022, and I thank you for the great opportunity you gave me then.
Yeah, running for Senate. We remember it well. So
we need to later find out who's running for Senate this time around.
So
right. Well, I can't disagree with you on your open. Okay. Of course, I was one of the people in the last 3 decades who we suffered for over 40 years under Mike Madigan, and now he's sitting on the threshold of prison. And who do we have? Well, you call him Jelly Belly Pritsker. I think that does a disservice to the great candy that we enjoy.
True. I'm glad I haven't been sued. Yeah, you're right.
So I'd say, what do? He's got his $3.2 billion war chest that he puts behind candidates. And in spite of that, we made some great headway. We laid a good foundation this last, and I'm happy in the 15 minutes I have with you to share with you and your listening audience a little bit about what I've learned about the Illinois Republican Party since I have been its chair 3 months before the turbulent November 2024 election. So anyhow, I agree. It's a tough pull. It's an oxymoron to say Illinois Republican. Many people outside of our state say, who? What? Is there one? And so I'm here to share with your listening audience what we did in the fall of 2024. And I think that's important. We had the first ever robust get out the vote. And what we did was we touched over 2.9 million Illinoisans through digital, text, and mail. We were able to, through our Get Out the Vote program, produce 77,000 mail-in ballots of low-propensity Republican voters and 202,000 low-propensity Republicans to vote early. This was a 35% increase of Republican mail-in early vote turnout, and we outperformed the Democrat and the independent voters in our Get Out the Vote efforts. It was the highest 40-day early vote tally of Republicans in Illinois' history. We outperformed unreliable Democrat voters by a great margin. And what we produced was something also historic. If you'll remember, President Trump in 2016 lost Illinois by a 17-point margin. In 2020, 17-point margin. And we brought him to within single digits in 2024. So even though we're deep blue, we're a little bit more purplish than we were, and we expect to build on that foundation. And this means in a 40-day period before the election, because that's our election cycle, and then the 2 week afterward, we not only watched the ballots as they came down and questioned the questionable ballots and kept them from being counted, but we also went out and got our voters registered, informed, and out to the polls. And frankly, mathematically, the party that does a better job over a 40-day election cycle, including Election Day, of protecting the vote and then getting their voters out, just statistically, scientifically, will be the party that is victorious. So, we in the Illinois Republican Party are doing that. And remember, we don't run campaigns or fund campaigns. We support the candidates who get through the primary, and then we provide like yeast in dough. The way I tell people what the Republican Party does is when the bread comes out of the oven that is the winning candidate's campaign, they don't say, "Oh, that was great yeast." They compliment the person who won, the person who was elected. So I ask everybody in your listening audience to become involved in the Illinois Republican Party on your local level. Consider running for office and help us here in Illinois to build the mechanism of the Illinois Republican Party that will generate success for those candidates in all 102 counties.
Well, let's talk about the that building, because the implementation, the execution may be the last 40 days, but the construction needs to be a rolling basis 24/7. And so your point is well taken in terms of what the party is responsible to do, that the state party as one organ, what it's responsible to do and what it isn't. And then I think perhaps some explanation of how or if things are being coordinated with different party organs taking on different tasks, so there's some division of labor and some economies of scale that can be achieved with these various programs. But specifically, since you mentioned it, the programs that the party could be doing that would benefit everyone, all the candidates who make it out to the primary, out of the primary to the general election. And I'm talking specifically about one thing you mentioned, which is a vote by mail program, and something else too that should be going on now, it seems to me, particularly when we see what other states have done in terms of cleaning up their voter rolls, places like Florida and Ohio. And we know how long the voter rolls have been unattended to in Illinois, and particularly in Cook and the Collier counties. And it seems to me that this would be an important project for the Illinois Republican Party to undertake, and it's not that difficult to do. It just takes a little bit of legwork, and then you would have the profile to really put a spotlight on problems with the accuracy of voter rolls in Chicagoland, for example.
Perfect, yes, and we are doing that. We have an active election integrity committee, and it has been formed since January of 2023 after the 2022 debacle here in Illinois. And remember, we meet monthly. It's led by one of our very capable state central committeemen, Mark Hosty. And we have a great team of professionals who are volunteers. They're the thoroughbreds.
So what has been accomplished in 2 years by that committee?
We have identified a boatload of voters that are not to be counted on the voters' rolls, and we have committees in every county that are formed to go to the election authorities and show them the data and have those voter rolls cleaned.
How much is a boatload?
We have 102 counties. Cook is one of, actually, the Chicago Board of Elections has been very cooperative with our team in looking at the names that we have and cross-checking them within their system. And we are, along with Judicial Watch, who filed a lawsuit a couple of years ago, and then we were able to get election data through our Illinois Board of Elections, and then use that election data and compare it with the National Voter Right Change Address file, which is a national database.
Yeah, NCOA.
To identify where those voters are double registered, and then provide that information to the local election authority so that those names can be removed. This is an ongoing process. It's a weekly.
So how many names have been identified and or removed?
Hundreds of thousands throughout the state. I want to say in Cook County about 800,000, And so if you're asking me right now and up to date, we have taken many names off the rolls. We've identified many others that need to be taken off the rolls. And I think the principal job of the party is to make sure that our elections are run honestly here in Illinois, and to see that no person is allowed to double vote, and those names that are identified as being either have moved or died have to be taken off the rolls. And so our team, our election integrity team, identifies by going to the obituaries which people are no longer able to vote. In fact, we're at a point where we've identified people who are over 300 years old who are identified as voting in this last election. So we kind of think it's tongue-in-cheek. But to your point, taking those voters off the rolls is the responsibility to the local election authority, whether in Cook or DuPage or Kane or Alexander County. So and we are at that job day in and day in and night.
So two big programs that the state party is doing and has been doing, you're saying the vote by mail program you did in 2024 and that you're going to build upon in 2026 as a look ahead, and this cleaning up of the voter roll. So those are two big things that you're fully engaged in that will provide benefit for Republican candidates up and down the ballot in 26. That's what you're saying.
And identifying through the local parties our voters. You know, if you imagine the 11,000 plus precincts in the state of Illinois, I ask your listeners what they can do, what you can do. The easiest thing in the world, of course, is to write a check and then to entrust somebody else to spend it well. Because, of course, this institution, it requires a lot of volunteer man and woman hours. And we are at our work around the clock. And that's the easiest way to support the Illinois Republican Party. But I ask you, what's more important is get involved. I ask your listening audience to go to the Illinois Republican website and sign up for my newsletter. It comes out every Friday. And if you want to know what's going on around the state or in your area, you'll see not only the newsletter, which gives you up-to-date information, but you'll see activities in your local area. In addition to that, I encourage all listeners to go to the White House website. President Trump asks us to be of one voice. And I don't care if you're upset at this or you're upset at that. Find out what's happening on a daily basis, and look and become informed so that at your dinner table you're able to talk about the great initiatives that the Trump administration is bringing about. And I think this will help build the momentum that we need in Illinois. And I'm glad to be on your show, Dan, because the best way to inform your listening audience about what the Illinois Republican Party does is to inform. And so I, like many people, wondered where was the party when I ran in 2022? Where was it? Where was it? Was it behind me? And I learned that the party doesn't run campaigns or fund campaigns. That's up to a very capably run campaign. But what the party does is it provides that mechanism to help campaigns be successful. And I'm proud that in every race in Illinois, no incumbent lost in November of 2024. Everyone won, and by thin margins. And that was because of the many eyes that we had on the ballots as they came in that 2 weeks afterwards. And so while we didn't add any state house or Senate seats, we have great opportunity in the coming, and we didn't have any statewide.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay, so are there any rising Republican candidates in Illinois that we should keep an eye on? Are you planning on helping, like, who's going to be our gubernatorial candidate, U.S. Senate, mayoral?
She's not getting involved in primaries.
See, we think it's we the people, the individual people, come out of their own areas and they rise up to take on these wonderful posts. And it's the Illinois Republican Party that will support vigorously.
Okay, well, what names are you hearing? I mean, you can't be completely out of the process. I mean.
Well, I'm not. We don't recruit candidates. The Illinois Republican Party doesn't recruit candidates like the Democrats. They slate candidates and then they back them, and they have to hold the line to the Marxist leftist policies that party adheres to. But in the Illinois Republican Party, we support the candidates who the people support. Those that come through whatever county, whatever. We have on August 5th, the people who are going to be running will have an opportunity to get their petitions out and the signatures and then get on the ballot. And there will be, I'm sure, some vigorous primaries, and we will be supporting the victors in those primaries.
There's one other role that, in my view, the state party chairman should perform, and that is being a communication leader for the party. And so my question to you is, what are you doing to put yourself out there to comment on Jelly Belly's testimony before the House Oversight Committee yesterday? And not just putting yourself out there, but also sending the message to the House organ for the Democrats, the Chicago Political Press Corps, that Pat Brady is not a spokesman for our party. He's a Democrat. That Jim Edgar is not a spokesman for our party. He doesn't represent where the party is in 2025. I'm a spokesman for the party. People that support the president's agenda are spokespeople for the party and ambassadors for the party. And people that are doing the bidding of the other side, stop identifying them as people representing our party, or at least have me on to make that public, that these people do not represent. They are Quislings. They are enemies inside the perimeter. They are part of what's wrong with Illinois. I mean, the lack of self-policing and the tolerance of people masquerading as Republicans, serving as representatives of that brand, is really intolerable. And not just to me. I mean, it's an insult to see Pat Brady running around pretending to be a Republican. The same with Jim Edgar these days.
Agreed. 100%. And what I'm doing is, you probably didn't get my press release from yesterday on Jelly Belly and his testimony, but I am everywhere and anywhere I'm asked to be. And as many Republicans have seen, I've traveled all 102 counties. I've appeared at breakfasts. And that's not enough. We need to get to the broader listening audience, is why I'm happy to be here on your show today. But listen, what I'm excited about is what we did in November 2024 and what we're building on in the future. And that's why everybody who, gets my emails or texts and makes any contribution, I can guarantee I'm putting my entire time, talent, and treasure as a full-time volunteer to this post, because I, as you started, wondered, where is the Republican Party? And I'm only one person, but I've got a great team of 102 county chairmen, many chairmen, 17 amazing people who are state central committee members. And in my what I have witnessed is very heroic volunteers at all levels come out and to work to build their parties locally. And that's what your listening audience can do. Get off the couch, stop eating popcorn and watching and condemning, but get involved. And one of your listeners, Elsie Morrissey, who's probably listening right now, she said, Kathy, you need to get on the air with Dan and Amy and tell them all the great things you're doing. And I said, Elsie, I'll do it. I've had other people say the same. Tomorrow, I'll let you know, we'll be in LaSalle County with Larry Smith, and they're having a huge rally there in Utica by Jamie's Outpost. We're going to do a big motorcade and then speeches. And I believe that many people who are on the fence wondering, should I run for this or should I run for that? They'll be making the decision over these summer weeks to get involved and get involved locally and run for Congress, run for state rep, run for the House, because they see that they have a vital and alive party willing to back them and do the work of helping them get across the finish line. So I'm proud of the Illinois Republican Party. I'm proud to be its chair. And let's end this blue funk in Illinois and allow this Republican renaissance.
Kathy Salvi, State Party Chairman, Illinois Republican Party. Kathy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Appreciate coming on. Thanks.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Are you okay, Ben? I'm scared, Arvid. Why? Nicole can read my mind. What?
Hold on. Is this about the Ashton recliner again?
See? I was just thinking about the Ashton recliner at Penny Mustard.
Yes, we were just talking about its optionizable qualities.
I said I'd like the Ashton recliner in leather, and she said,
done.
I suggested a different leg color, and she said,
done.
Ben.
And then he asked if I could add bedazzled gold nailhead adornments to make it look like a throne.
And she said, great minds think alike.
Look, I don't think Nicole can really read your mind.
Well, not anymore. That's why I'm wearing this tinfoil hat.
Why does it smell like fish?
Because I wrapped my lunch in it.
The Ashton recliner Made in the USA with locally sourced materials and designed to fit all body types. Starting at $28.70 at Penny Mustard.
7 locations throughout Chicagoland.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call in now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That time of the week. Open Mic Friday. Taking your calls. 312-642-5600. Turnkey.pro. Answer line with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We will take it all. Again, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line. David Kolsak off this week because I think he's still sunning himself in Mexico.
Yes, he is. Yes.
All right, let's go right to it. Stu in Barrington, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Here's a riddle. What does Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, and Terry Moran have in common?
Oh, boy.
What do they have in common? I
I
don't
have
know.
no idea.
They both went to Barrington High School.
Oh,
I was going to
really?
guess that, but I didn't know Terry Moran went to Barrington. Oh, boy.
You know,
Yeah, he's on the wall of Fame.
Oh,
My
well,
daughter went there.
that's embarrassing for Barrington. Thanks for the
Agreed.
call. Thanks for the call, Stu. Maybe that'll have to come down now that he's just a substacker. He's not a big hot shot at ABC News.
These wall of fames, man. I go to a lot of different schools in the suburbs and look at these wall of fames. It's very bizarre.
Well, I mean,
who they consider famous and
Chicagoland's a hick town. How do you know it's a hick town? Because Terry Moran's on the Wall of Fame somewhere.
Stephen Moore was on the wall of fame at New Trier and they took him down, didn't they? Or somebody else. Who did they take down?
I don't know.
Oh, we're gonna ask Stephen Moore next time he's here.
Probably Charlton Heston, knowing New Trier. Bob in Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Always great talking to you. Today was a big news day. Wish you guys had another hour to discuss. Now, let me remind you, you talked about it earlier this week, but tomorrow, June 14th, is No King's Day, Trump's birthday, Army's 250th anniversary, and then Sunday we have Father's Day. But then, also Sunday, June 15th, do you remember what took place 10 years ago?
Terry Moran graduated from Barrington High School. No.
He went to prom with Michelle Wu.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Trump and Melania walked down the Golden Escalator 10 years ago.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
And the world changed.
Hard to believe. Hard to believe that was 10 years ago, and that was the start of, if you might say so, Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people were against him, and you guys weren't really for him, right?
I didn't think.
No.
I thought he was just trolling us.
I was not for. I mean, I was for Scott Walker out
was
of the
for
gate
Marco
in
Rubio.
2016. Yeah, absolutely.
No, John. What was his name?
But you remember it so well.
Yeah,
John
the governor,
Kasich.
John Kasich, and
Oh,
then I
God.
flipped to Marco Rubio.
There were 16 of them.
I know, and then I dabbled in Fear. What was her name?
Remembering who we initially
Harley
supported in
Fioretti.
2016,
I initially-
Fiorina.
Fiorina.
You remember them so well. Bob, who did you support out of the gate?
Actually, I tended to support Trump because he was telling the truth.
Oh, yeah, Bob, you're so smart. The engineer's mind. All right, thanks for the call, Bob.
Speaking of tomorrow, Gavin Newsom says we're celebrating a dictator who's letting tanks go down the streets of D.C.
And we all know this Saturday,
He's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past.
Yeah, it's not working, Gavin. Keep trying, though.
A lot of people want to chime in today. Keep them coming. If you can't get in, keep calling 312-642-5600.
Lawrence, West Side.
Hey, good morning, DNA. How are you guys doing?
Good.
DNA. I just want to follow up from your conversation with the chair of the party. I was thrown underneath the bus in 2022 by the leadership of the Illinois Republican Party because I spoke about the corrupt voter rolls in January 2021, January 6th. I spoke about the Republican Party, that they just don't know how to get the vote out. They missed the ground game. And they threw me underneath the bus because I'm a forward thinker, I'm proactive. That is the problem, is they have too many rats in the grass. You have to get rid of the rats in the grass, and you have to be passionate. You have to be sincere about what you're doing. And the majority of Republicans are not sincere on asking people, how do you feel? What's going on? How's your family? They're more about selling whatever they want to sell, and it's not selling the Republican message. They're always selling something. Or they're into the corruption, as like the Democratic Party is. They're the second corrupt party of the system, and they got to get rid of that reputation.
All right.
Because
thanks for the call, Lawrence. Appreciate it. Dawn in Batavia.
Good morning, Illinois. The reason a number of people in Illinois will not affiliate as Republican is because of concerns about the rhetoric used by Dan Proft and Sean Thompson. To call Governor Edgar, who has probably been one of the best governors who managed to avoid jail.
Yeah, so what is quite an accomplishment.
In our lifetime.
What a high bar you have, Dawn. Yeah.
Is offensive to me because I am a founding American, directly matrilineally descended from founding families of Elizabethtown and Morristown.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Is that an accomplishment too? Your ancestry? Thanks for the call, Dawn. Which did you like best, Dawn? Governor Edgar's pension ramp or his tax increase? Or being pro-abortion? Or being anti-school choice? Or operating in the service of Jelly Belly Pritsker? Or writing the leniency letter for Mike Madigan? You want me to go on, chapter and verse on Jim Edgar? So be offended all you want, Dawn. Tom in Blue Island.
I'm here. Good morning, Dan and Amy. I was just wondering how much Kathy Salvi paid my friend Kevin from Austin, Texas, for stealing his default line about everybody needs to get involved. Just a lighthearted shot, Kevin.
Okay. I love when callers take shots at other callers. Just use us as the medium.
Yeah.
Conduit.
George in Naperville.
Release their feelings.
Yes, Dan, this relates to a point that you make all the time. If illegals are the fabric of our community, I'd like to reupholster and get people who abide by our laws.
Thanks for the call, George. George. Robin.
I don't know why I think that's funny.
Robin in Tony, Alabama?
That is correct, about 20 miles north of Huntsville.
Okay.
I wanted to, it's a beautiful area. Not very Tony, though, just rural. Anyways, I wanted to talk about the Catholic priest who brought me into the church, a very Orthodox traditional priest, and his Father's Day homily was so incredible to me. His homilies always meant something. They explained Catholic doctrine or the gospel. And here's what he said about father, is that fathers are very important to teach boys how to treat women and to teach girls that they're good and smart and beautiful so that they will make better choices about who their husbands are. And that has stuck with me. And I thought that's why dads are important, especially in this society with the feminization of everything. That's all.
Thanks for the call, Robin. Good commentary in response to our interview with Ian Rowe. If you
with Father's Day on Sunday. Yeah.
catch that, or check out his report. What was the name of the report again? Good Fathers, Flourishing Kids, The Importance of Fatherhood in Virginia. That's a new report from Ian Rowe and a bunch of other scholars from across the political spectrum.
Moms, too, can teach their sons how to treat women well and to be courteous to others and to respect the elders.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Yeah, it is.
We understand. Melanie in Buffalo Grove.
Oh, Melanie.
Hi, Dan and Amy. I've called in before. I'm a PC with Vernon Township Republicans and vice chair. Just had a comment on Kathy's commentary.
Yeah.
I like Kathy. I know her. I think she's a great lady. And I just want to say that I've been here since COVID. That's how I got activated in politics, because I was, upset about the masking and all that. And we're talking about 2022 election, 2024 election, and then all these people say, where were you? Where were you? Where were you? Where were they? The problem with the Republican Party and the Illinois GOP, and what I've tried to understand, is it's like, well, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do this. Well, what do you do? Because nobody was building the party here. I come from a more independent, history, maybe voting more Democrat in my liberal youth. And it's like, well, where were you guys? Because I'm here because of Trump. Nobody was building the machine. Nobody was building the infrastructure. And I've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years. I started as an appointed PC. Now I'm vice chair of Vernon Township. So I just wanted to share that commentary. Yes, people have to get involved. But when you're telling people to go to the Illinois GOP website and then you click on it and it's like, who are my leaders? And there's a spreadsheet and maybe one email has a hyperlink. There is no infrastructure. So when we see people and we see Dems and we have like the No King Day protests and we have Indivisible and we have grassroots and we have Democrats all, coalescing together on a national level, this is what we're up against. And there's a lot of people in the GOP that are outdated. They have old concepts, old ideas. We need to connect with our grassroots. We need to respect our grassroots organizations, and we have to work together with them, and we have to get more precinct committeemen. Precinct committeemen elections are in 2026. These people will be electing the Lake County chairs and the other chairs. Cook County is a little bit different. But yes, Americans, Republicans, you got to get off your butts and you got to come in and you got to start local and you got to build the infrastructure, because nobody up top is doing it. We have to do it from the ground up.
Hey.
And I just want to plug an event, if I could, at the end.
No, and I mean, just a little bit on that too. I mean, and you got to whip the Trump vote. I mean, there is this inert vote of center right people out there, particularly Trump voters, who then take midterm elections and spring elections off, and that just makes the math very difficult to work out if those people who have that center right sensibility don't participate in midterm elections. That's number one. And then there's also the next generation, particularly 18 to 24-year-old men that we've been talking quite a bit about, who a cohort right now that Trump is plus 19 with, and getting them registered to vote and so on and so forth. And so, like, that's the sort of stuff, it's like, oh, I want to be a precinct captain, but I want to do something. Well, there are things to do with a little bit of direction. You don't just have to show up to a monthly meeting and have some coffee and talk about the latest controversies du jour and then go home and feel like I've got a title, but I don't really do anything. For the people that are actually motivated, they want to participate meaningfully, you have to give them meaningful work. And those are some areas where meaningful work is available.
Oh, yeah. We have a ton of meaningful work up in Vernon Township because we have to cover a lot even beyond our township, because unfortunately, it's all a matter of resources. So Lake County Republicans cannot compete with Lake County Dems. So we find when we're out in the public and we're doing events, and we have plenty of work for anyone. If you don't want to be a precinct committeeman, you can be a volunteer. You can help us fundraise because we're self-funding. We don't get a dime from anybody except when we go out and ask for it and show them our metrics and our results, show the candidates that we were able to help get into. We had 2 Lake County CLC board members win, and, at least one trustee up here. So we can show metrics and we can show increase in participation. We track people. We take every event is registered. We follow up with those people. We are constantly making phone calls. We don't just knock doors once every whatever election, we maintain at least 4 to 6 times. And we have found that by contacting voters 4 to 6 times all year, every year, it does increase the turnout of the unreliable voters. And we are trying to capitalize, because this is an area, as you mentioned, the 18 to 24-year-old. I have high school, I have 3 boys, 2 of them, one's graduating now, one's in high school. But this is the most conservative group of people, I think, coming up in a long time, because they had to live through the tyranny, especially here in Illinois. And this is messaging that has been lost. It's there are people dropping the ball. Vernon, if you check us out, we have consistent messaging. We are always trying to, have our voice out there, and we're on, go to X. I mean, there's a huge community on X right now. Make Illinois Great Again comes on at like Wednesdays at 6:00. There's been candidates, there's been people, there's been lots of people just connected throughout the entire state that meet up there every Wednesday. And the reality is, it'll be people like this. It'll be people like this who will take the initiative and start thinking outside the box and figuring out how to grow this party and repair this infrastructure that's just been dilapidated for decades.
Well said, Melanie. What's the event you want to promote?
So next Wednesday at the Gorton Center in Lake Forest, we will have a first look event for some people who are aiming to run in 2026. Vernon Township and Shields Township Republican organizations are partnering up. So 6 p.m. at Gorton Center next Wednesday, whatever the date is. I think it's the 18th.
Yes, it's our golf outing day. Yes, the 18th. Yeah.
Sorry, we conflict.
He's preparing his outfit now.
You can golf in the morning and go to that event. If you're golfing in the morning, you can do
the
that.
morning. We have
and if you go
availability 560theanswer.com/golf. Just had to get that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. If you go to vernongop.win, it's our website, and you can RSVP for this event. It doesn't cost anything, but we would just appreciate so we know how much food.
Okay. Thanks, Melanie. Appreciate it. Monica and Lyle.
And now for something completely different.
Okay, good. That's fine.
That's good.
The reason I called is, Dan, you inspired me, and also Amy. I realized that, Dan, I think for the time being, and unless something changes, you are going to be what I would term a doggy daddy. You parents, cat mommies, you are going to be a doggy daddy. And to put a fine point on that, you should adopt another brother for Hayek, and his name should be Augie Doggy. And if you're a Hanna-Barbera fan, you will understand the reference.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Monica. But, I don't like that use of parental terms with respect to pets.
Yeah.
I'm Hayek's owner. I'm not his dad. I didn't sire Hayek.
Okay.
Because that would be a story.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
But you do have hypothetical children. I wonder what they're going to get you for Father's Day Sunday.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe one of those reborn dolls, so I could have a fake child with my imaginary children. Have you seen those?
No, they're not butt babies, right?
No, that's different.
I would never. That's disgusting. But it is a thing, folks.
Reborns are these lifelike dolls that like really lifelike, like horror movie lifelike.
Oh.
But they're very popular in Brazil. I understand. I was reading about it.
And people carry them around.
Yeah, and they take pictures with them, like you're going to picnic with your reborns. It's sort of like next level Cabbage Patch dolls.
Oh, all right.
But it's for adults. It's like for these childless cat ladies that J.D. Vance talks about. They can have a reborn, so they don't have to have actual children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another reason why Dan Proft is single. John in Wisconsin.
Wonder if they heat up, give body warmth.
I don't know those details. John in Wisconsin. John in Wisconsin. Okay, we're going to put John in Wisconsin on hold, see if he returns. Come back to us, John. Roger, Southside.
Hi. Dan Proft is single because he refuses to acknowledge Western suburb women as women. Anyway.
Wait, I refuse to recognize what as women?
Western suburb crazy.
Oh,
radicals.
West suburban women as women. Yeah.
great having Kathy Salvi on in the last guest. Appreciate it. We really need to start talking about, okay, listen, if you want to make any progress here, we've got to flip Cook County. We don't have to flip it. We just need to win by 51%. Because
or we need to lose by less than 24% like we did in 2022. But I digress.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, here, we need our money base to buy the black ministers the same way Belly does. Because here, what is his base? You mentioned it yesterday. What is his base? It's the western suburbs, the crazy hub, and then all the votes that get bought through Preckwinkle. So, I mean, until we're willing to spend that money and be as dirty as them and get down in the street, forget about it. We can win every other county and still lose. But have a good weekend, and you're still single, Dan.
Thanks for the call, Roger.
Wow.
Actually, we can win if we win every other county but Cook, we win. We can't lose and really get demolished in places like, which is why Melanie's call was interesting. We cannot lose and get demolished in places like Lake and DuPage. Then you can't make the math work. Joe in Arlington Heights, our poet laureate, Morning Answer, Chicago's Morning Answer poet laureate, Joe, Arlington Heights.
Good morning. If I may preface this Father's Day poem with an observation that I've always found it fascinating that in the 10 Commandments, the first 3 are man's relationship to God, but the very first one about man's relationship to one another is honor your father and mother. Mm-hmm. And this is a poem called The Father's Example. Working hard by day, driving a cab at night, a man of peace who knew when to fight. An example of what it meant to be strong would be the example his whole life long. Every day began and ended the same. Never once did I ever hear him complain. Never too tired to keep in sight. Incredible wisdom to know what's right. For every place where we lived, of himself to neighbors he'd give, preaching the gospel not with words, his actions were most loudly heard. His love for others as himself rarely produced bad results, teaching us to think of our neighbors, respect and courtesy without demand or favor. In prayer, too, my father led the way. Soon I embraced to pray each day, teaching sons how to respect your wife, and other lessons of a successful life. Not a man of wealth or power, the funeral procession of almost an hour, the director counting cars from church to grave. Well over 100 was the tally he gave. Of virtuous men, it may be said, they were much more than just a dad, legacies that span many generations. Men like him are what built this nation.
Very good, as always, Joe. Thank you for that. Send that to me, and we'll post that too on social
very
media.
Much.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
And I'd like to say a happy Father's Day to Harvey.
Is Harvey back on the course?
He is golfing 18, killing it out there.
Oh, good. All right, good. Got to keep playing golf.
Yep,
Key to longevity.
We're going to see him Saturday, and I don't want to say what town he lives in. I don't want people stalking him.
Yeah, well, just don't cut into his golf time.
Oh my! He doesn't golf on the weekends ever.
Really?
Oh, good. You think he has the patience for that? I don't golf on the weekends.
Well, you just have to go someplace that's not overrun.
Oh, last Saturday I went to Sherwood in Sherrville, Indiana. I golfed the executive because it sounded fancy.
It's another
and it
executive. It's a par 3 course. That's what executive course is.
I know. Well, I didn't know that, but there was 2 par 4s on that, by the way, and then I played it again. And played each hole twice.
And dare I ask?
Nobody was there.
Dare I ask? No. So this was on Witness too. So what score are you going to give yourself?
At Sherwood?
Yeah.
No, I didn't even keep score. I was a hot mess.
Don't keep score.
Well, there was the dogwood stuff, the white pollen that's coming down from the dogwood trees.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't even find my ball. I mean, it looked like it snowed on that 4th hole. So I was fighting the elements. You know what I mean?
Hear a bad Yelp review coming.
No, that's all right.
John in Palm Beach, Florida.
There were anthills on the tee box, but that's all right.
Hi, Dan and Amy. Dan, I've run into you quite a few times back in the 2010s at various fundraisers, and things haven't gotten better in Illinois. In fact, I live in of course, in Palm Beach County. As long as we have vote by mail in Illinois and count ballots 20 days after the election, we're never going to win.
Well, the counting ballots for 2 weeks after the election is absurd.
That's stupid.
But we can win. We can survive vote by mail. The counting the ballots thing is a thanks for the call, John, is a problem just because of the institutional control the other side has. So it's a problem. But if you can keep it within striking distance and bring the resources to bear to make sure that you can bring resources to bear for the 2 weeks post-election. It's daunting. I mean, I agree that some rules of the game being changed would be helpful, but nothing is insurmountable. Almost nothing. John in Wisconsin, one more time.
Hey, hi guys. Dan, did you notice what show Trump saw at the Kennedy Center?
Les Mis, right?
Les Mis.
Oh, was it?
Right, about the French, about the French Revolution. I
yes.
think Trump's subtle message to the left that we've seen that show already, and it ain't happening here.
Hey-o.
That's pretty good. I didn't know he saw Les Mis. Oh, okay.
What did you think he watched? Hamilton? Because they probably stormed out.
No.
He changed the board members at the Kennedy Center, so we're not going to perform here. Okay, go find another venue.
Who was in the cast
of Les Mis?
Yeah,
don't make me sing. I dreamed a dream.
Oh gosh, no, I'm not making you sing. Yeah, yes. My life has killed the dream I dreamed. That's going to be on my gravestone, by the way.
Oh, what is going to be on your grave? Yeah.
My life has killed the dream I dreamed. The dream I dreamed. Yes.
Oh, but life, yeah. Life has killed the dream. I thought it was, but man has killed the dream I dream.
Okay, we'll have to get you up to speed on Broadway plays a little bit later.
I've seen Les Mis a few times.
Dawn in Naperville.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to remind the audience to please keep DJ in your prayers. Speaking of an amazing father, I think everyone saw the dad who was lifting up DJ President Trump.
The young black kid that was at the joint session of Congress that Trump spoke at and then became a Secret Service agent. Yeah, he was.
And then he's been deputized a few times since. Why? What's happening?
He's got more tumors. Yeah.
Oh. More tumors. He had surgery on June 8th, and from what I can read, the last thing I read was on CatholicVote.org. He's still in critical condition, and his dad was asking for prayer. So, if we can just lift him up in prayer and lift up the dad in prayer. But I think that to me, that picture. That dad that's showing up when it's hard. And I think that's the most beautiful picture. And remember, the first question that God asked man was, where are you? So it's when you show up. And we're all going to have to give an account one day before the Lord of how we stewarded our children. So
thanks for the call, Dawn. Appreciate that. Definitely prayers for DJ. Chuck and Delavan, close it out.
Hey, karaoke night tonight at Pat's Brewing Q in downtown Sharon. Dan, I want to thank you for mentioning my garage band name, Too Deep in the Weed. Happy Fathers to all the Father's Day and also aunts and uncles that do fatherly things. Shout out to Bob and Mary Ann.
Thanks,
Chuck. It's 9 a.m. WIND Chicago.
It's unlawful and cowardly. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Iran is calling Israel's attack, vowing